Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Englewood Cliffs Mayor and Council. Today is September 11th, 2019. It's 8:03 p.m. I call the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would everyone please remain standing for a moment of silence? There's actually 2 moments of silence. The first is for, today marks the 18th anniversary of 9/11 and the tragedy of that day. So a moment of silence for the victims of 9/11 and for their families. Thank you. And a separate moment of silence for Virginia Danzo, who was a resident in Englewood Cliffs all her married life, and it was a very long life. She passed away on Saturday. She died at 96 years old. Thank you. This morning we had a, you can please have a seat. This morning we had an observance of September 11th at the firehouse. It was attended by residents and employees of the borough. Chief Henkelman organized it. It was a very nice day and morning to commemorate. And what I thought, since many of you weren't there, and for the people at home, just so you can understand what we did this morning, I opened it with a few words saying, and I'll read it to you. Thank you all for joining me for the solemn remembrance. 18 years ago, on September 11, 2001, America was forever transformed by the horrors that took place at Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan, at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The darkness we witnessed that day galvanized our nation. It reaffirmed our commitment to defending freedom, liberty, and our democracy from all who oppose our American way of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 18 years ago last night, 246 people went to sleep in preparation for their morning flights. 2,606 people went to sleep in preparation for work the next morning at the World Trade Center. 55 people went to sleep in preparation for work the next morning at the Pentagon. 343 firefighters went to sleep in preparation for their next morning shift. 60 police officers went to sleep in preparation for their next morning patrol. 8 paramedics went to sleep in preparation for the next morning shift of saving lives. None of them saw past 10 a.m. on the following day, September 11th, 2001. In one single moment, life may never be the same. As we live and enjoy the breaths we take today, we prepare for our tomorrows, cherish those you love, make amends with those you are in conflict with, be good citizens, and never take 1 second of your life for granted. May God bless all those who perished on 9/11 and their families, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you for listening. Chief Henkelman had a speech as well, and I'm going to ask him to post that on the borough website. Madam Clerk, have a roll call, please.
Mayor Kranjak?
Here.
Councilpersons Wu?
Here.
Sung?
Here.
Savari? Here. Park? Here. Aversa?
Here.
Ho? Here. Borough Attorney?
Here.
Borough Clerk? And DPW Superintendent?
Here.
Everyone's present, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion, typing, and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. Out in the lobby is the food collection basket for the Office of Concerned Food Pantry in Englewood. I always say that I'd like to leave here knowing that we did at least one good thing as a council and mayor, and that is collect food for the needy. So we, every month at this meeting, the regular meeting, we have a collection of non-perishable food items. Thank you all who contributed. The basket will be out there until tomorrow morning if you want to drop something off later if you forgot it this evening. The Office of Concern thanked us greatly for our August contributions. The bulk of them came from the fire department, which had a lot of leftover hamburger and hot dog buns, which were really greatly appreciated by them. So thank you all. Also, I want to call attention to this week. This week is National Suicide Prevention Week. I was amazed by these statistics. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for those between the ages of 15 and 34 in the United States. Currently, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. A person dies by suicide every 12.8 minutes in the United States, and every day approximately 129 Americans take their own life. So there are resources available at the county, state, and federal level for anyone who's in crisis, and if you know anyone, please direct them accordingly. The next item on our agenda, there's an ordinance, 2019. I see that it says vote only, we're not open to the public?
I wasn't here last month, but it was open to the public last month.
We did.
So, is it your legal opinion that we don't have to open to the public today on
We
this?
already had a public hearing on it.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we already had a public hearing on it.
Okay. This is ordinance 2019-10, refunding bond ordinance, providing for the payment of amounts owing to others for taxes levied in and by the Borough of Englewood Cliffs in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $3 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3 million bonds or notes of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs for financing the cost thereof. I just had a question. I saw that there's $100,000 set aside for expenses. Could somebody explain what that's for? Or who gets that?
Sure, that's for the cost of issuance. The professionals who are doing the underwriting of the bond and who, your bond counsel, are probably, I'm sure, the ones who are getting paid from that.
Madam Clerk or Borough Administrator in that role, do you have a breakdown of that $100,000?
I don't have it with me. I can get them.
Borough Council, do you have a breakdown of that $100,000? Okay, I would just like to know who it's going to. The underlying tax settlements that this relates to, I did not support. I thought it was an outrageous amount of money to be refunding to a property owner. This council sees it differently, and they're free to vote accordingly. I oppose this.
Great.
What about it?
Yeah,
I make a motion to vote, to adopt this ordinance.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu,
Abstain.
Song,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
Yes.
I would still like to know how that $100,000 is being spent, so if you can't send it to me tomorrow. The next item up is the first reading of ordinance 19-11. It's an ordinance of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, providing for road improvements and the acquisition of equipment and vehicles in and for the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, and appropriating $1 million therefore, and providing for the issuance of $950,000 in bonds or notes by the Borough of Englewood Cliffs to finance the same. So, as I read this, we're acquiring vehicles. Can somebody explain what the vehicles are?
The vehicles are the 4 police SUVs that were placed in the budget and approved, the ones you've been asking about if we are purchasing yet, and because they're SUVs, they could be, go under capital ordinance. Then there are 2 DPW vehicles that were also placed in the budget and discussed.
Okay. In terms of the vehicles, I noticed that our police vehicles are getting darker and darker windows where you can't actually see who the police officer inside is. I'm not a fan of that. What kind of vehicles are we ordering? Do you know if they're tinted, and how does the council feel about that? I've had a lot of residents complain about, the tint on the windows are so dark that you can't see who's in there.
It's a safety issue supposedly, man.
Supposedly or really?
Well, I think we should
That's
speak to
the reason.
Councilman.
So that you can't recognize who the officer is, neither can a perpetrator who may want to isolate a particular officer.
What was,
I want to talk to the police about it, talk to the chief about it.
that's the answer?
No, I did, a few months ago, you asked me to look into that for you, and I had asked the officer in charge, Hill, and his response was also the same, that it's for the protection of the officer that's inside the vehicle.
And that being said, Mary, I don't know if the windows are tinted or not, but that,
Okay, all right. The public hearing on this will be October 9th, 2019. Is there anything else to be done on this?
Yes, we need a motion to
Just a
introduce.
motion to intro.
All right.
I need a motion?
Yes, just need a motion to introduce.
I make a motion to introduce the first reading of ordinance 19-11.
second?
Councilpersons Wu,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, the next item is the first reading for ordinance 19-12. It's an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation for severance liabilities with the public hearing on October 9, 2019. Now, I don't necessarily oppose some or all of the underlying payments that are due. What I try to get an answer to, and I'm not satisfied with the answer, is why are we doing it now? Why didn't we do it in the budget? It was known at the time, it should have been included in that budget, and why are we calling it an emergency? So, I'm still not comfortable with the answers I received, but this council, if you understand it better than I do, please go ahead and explain it to me and to the public.
Well, I believe that Chris did explain it to you.
Right, and I wrote back, said it sounds like an accounting...
Emergency is just a title. It's just a title.
Right.
Nothing to do, it's not going
Okay.
to be
No, I understand that.
taken to the finance board. This has to do with, when they started to change the pension, and it's basically there to protect, I'm sorry, it's there to protect the residents so that when you have police officers retiring all at the same time, and I'm putting this in the simplest terms, right, is that, in fact, we could spread out that cost over 5 years. We could not put that in our budget this year because we had already reached our cap. So even if we wanted to forego the emergency ordinance, we wouldn't be able to do that because we have to make these payments and we've maxed out on our budget. So this is the only choice we have, and we're able to do this, and we're able to spread the cost over 5 years. And yes, it includes a variety of officers and parts of their pension.
Okay. Well, I understand all that, but it sounds like an accounting gimmick, because in the budget itself, if you knew these items were coming due, you would have cut somewhere else to accommodate these items. So instead, what you're doing is,
That wouldn't
you're
be
biting the
possible.
same apple 2 times.
Mayor, that wouldn't be possible. We have over $1.4 million, probably closer to $1.5 million in legal fees in this year's budget, which is a reality. So we couldn't do that.
I could think of $1 million in my head just like this that you could cut.
Nor
Right.
why would you want to put $620,000 in 1 year's budget when you could spread it out over 5?
Well, you did it anyway. You did it anyway. You accommodated other expenses instead of these expenses.
This is an extremely tight budget. That's incorrect. There was no place else to cut.
You gave the retiring police chief $700,000 after he was recorded.
Let's make it clear.
He was
This is not money that's just...
Yeah, let me finish. He was recorded making racist comments, threatening to kill the borough council
That's not what
president.
this is about,
And you all just gave him money
That's
anyway.
not what this is about, and this is not money...
Right, but that was in the,
Copy.
that was in the
Talked to
budget.
several officers.
Right. No, I understand that. It's going to these guys, but in the actual budget, you had the other items. So,
No.
I think
That is
it's an accounting
There
gimmick.
is no other money in the actual budget for payouts. That's not
The
correct.
option is to charge the taxpayers all that money this year. Is that what
No, the real goal would have been to run a proper budget, including everything that you had to spend money on, and cut where you had to cut to accommodate the important things. But I know with this council, with this Spendthrift council, you're going to do this, so I leave it to you guys.
Yes, you're not making sense right now.
I'll make a motion to introduce, first reading 19-12.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu,
While, Debbie, I got the reason from our CFO, I still think that, he gave me that answer today. There's got to be another way to do this. I think that our residents deserve more transparency on this. we showed them zero tax increases, right? But this is a huge,
No, we actually didn't show them a zero tax increase, Bill.
what did we show them?
Okay, it was about an increase of $250,000.
We made amendment to the budget.
For
We
legal
did,
fees.
yes, you're right.
And there really was no room in that budget to accommodate them.
I think we should have emphasized this to the residents, that this was coming.
Actually, it was emphasized at one of the meetings that we had, the open public meetings, when it was brought up by a resident, and we went into detail with that with Steve Wilcox. So it was spoken about. So transparency is there.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you.
Song?
I just want to say that Chris did explain this to us, to the entire council and mayor, and I vote yes.
Can everyone speak into their microphones, please? Just pull them closer to...
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Department head reports. I see DPW Department Head Mark Neville's here. I was going to actually have you go first so you could leave. I know you've had a long day already. So if there's anything you want to talk to us about, give us a little update on what's happening. I know it's a leaf season for you. Thank you for a nice summer of good maintenance. Appreciate that.
Yeah, busy summer, I think everybody had a good summer. On our end, it was a busy maintenance summer. I think, when it rained, and it wasn't that hot, so things were growing. I know anticipating we have overstaffed a little bit into parks and playgrounds, and things are growing a little faster than you usually do in July and August, but staff's are working hard, we'll run up. So,
Okay. And you're all set for the leaves?
we're preparing equipment, things to leave, so we start our shortly after homestead.
Okay. And I have to mention, are you all prepared for snow?
We'll be,
It's not on a 90-degree day, but it's right around the corner.
that's our next season, we're
Yeah.
going to say season ahead, but
Okay.
we're ready.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for all you and the members of your department do. Feel free to leave or feel free to stay as you wish. Okay.
Thanks.
So we had no correspondence. We had minutes of caucus and regular meeting, August 14, 2019. Did anyone have any comments to that, or are you going to adopt those?
Need a motion?
So moved.
Councilperson Wu?
Yes.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
I wasn't here for that meeting, so I'm going to abstain.
We missed you.
O? Council President O?
I'm trying to remember if I participated.
You did it on the phone.
You participated via
I
phone.
think you're on the phone, yeah? All right, thank you. We're done voting?
Yes.
Okay. So, in terms of the affordable housing issues in town, and the gentleman in the far corner over there is from the law firm representing Normandy, the developer. They're here every meeting. They don't have much to say at this meeting, or our meetings, but they do in court. And there's a lot of things that are being said that are just not true. So I want to clarify, and the title of this is 42 Facts That You Should Know About Englewood Cliffs Affordable Housing Obligations. So much has been written about Englewood Cliffs affordable housing obligations by the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Normandy's attorney, and by Karen Geiger and Lynn Liascos in their Eye on the Cliffs political newsletter, mostly without any regard for the truth. Set forth below are the uncontroverted facts regarding the affordable housing issues facing Englewood Cliffs. Since they have so much to say while hiding behind their keyboards, I have invited the editorial boards of the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger to be here this evening in order to help them return to news reporting rather than political party platform execution. They're not here, they're not interested in hearing the truth, they're just interested in their spin. But they remain invited. I'm happy to sit down with them and set them straight. Here are the facts. So starting off with number one, Mount Laurel affordable housing mandate laws were first enacted in or about 1977. Joseph Parisi Sr. and Joseph Parisi Jr. were the mayors of Englewood Cliffs from 1976 through 2015. Ed Aversa and Gloria O. have been council members since 2012. No affordable housing units were planned or built prior to 2016 in Englewood Cliffs. I became mayor in 2016. I I always publicly said that although I do not agree with forced affordable housing, it is the law, and that we would comply with it. Attorney from Beatty Padavano, listen to that again, because you're not writing it that way in court. I always publicly said that we would comply with the law. In 2017, Normandy Development applied for a commercial subdivision at 800 Sylvan, 9W. The subdivision was denied, and within 2 weeks of that denial, Normandy sued for a high-density residential development at 800 Sylvan, of which 20% would be affordable units. John Shapezi, who was Normandy's attorney at the time, submitted to our borough clerk an Open Public Records Act request for Englewood Cliffs affordable housing documents 6 days before Normandy's planned board hearing started regarding their initial subdivision application. Normandy's managing director actually admitted, you can read the transcript of the recording, it's public, that a residential development was always their intention, notwithstanding the commercial subdivision application. Here's what's really important. 2016, 2017, and 2018, Republican council majority worked with me to preserve the borough's immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits. On January 3rd, 2019, the current council majority took control of the borough council. The immunity from builders' remedy lawsuits was lost in August 2019 by the 2019 council, and we're appealing that. We're trying to appeal that. The founder of Eye on the Cliffs newsletter, Karen Geiger, intervened in one of Normandy's lawsuits on behalf of Normandy, the developer, and not on behalf of the borough.
That's not true.
The 2018 council majority hired, this is my council, and directed a team of professionals to ensure full compliance with the affordable housing laws in such a manner that only 100% affordable housing units would be built, rather than high-density housing that Normandy was pursuing. Seemed like a logical attempt to satisfy the law. While the 2018 council was developing the 100%, Mr. Luciano, if you can't sit there with your mouth shut when I'm speaking, you need to leave. You need to leave, okay?
I wasn't talking to you, someone was talking to me, so I was responding to a comment.
You are distracting everybody.
You're talking yourself then.
We're not going to tolerate that, okay? Okay. So while the 2018 council was developing the 100% affordable housing plan,
You don't represent...
we also sat down with the special master and Fair Share Housing Council representative in mid-2018 to present what became the Hudson Terrace Plan, which provided the borough with 77 affordable housing units. We left the meeting with general agreement by the special master and the Fair Share Housing Council to the Hudson Terrace Plan. Within 1 month of that tacit agreement, the Fair Share Housing Council and the special master withdrew their support. Fair Share Housing Council is a non-governmental, non-elected, non-profit organization that claims as its mission to ensure local government compliance with New Jersey's affordable housing mandates. Fair Share Housing Council raises money and pays salaries to its employees, including its own in-house attorneys, who share in the $600,000 of salary that's paid annually. Fair Share Housing Council does not disclose who its donors are and refuses to do so. It's probably the best-kept secret in New Jersey, but many believe they're funded by the builders, the construction industry, and some high-level politicians. Now, I challenge the Bergen Record and Star Ledger to actually do their jobs and investigate and report to us who finances this so-called not-for-profit organization. Let's see if they do that. Fair Share Housing Council is headed by Kevin Walsh, who lives in a town that is not compliant with its own affordable housing requirements, and recently maneuvered a change in its send-receive high school relationship from a high school with 22.9% white and Asian students to a high school with 72.1% white and Asian students. It seems to me that Mr. Walsh doesn't practice what he preaches. Fair Share Housing Council and Kevin Walsh run the state of New Jersey.
This is why we get in trouble.
They control the
Why
legislature.
they're gonna get affordable housing, because he...
They-
Could you please just be quiet already? You're destroying the town.
They
You were gonna
you
get...
lost the- they control the Let me finish.
He's on the
No,
record.
even if it was true. You're destroying us.
Newspaper, saying all this stuff.
You're told to be quiet.
They control, Fair Share Housing controls the legislature, the governor, and the courts who are now judging Englewood Cliffs. The New Jersey legislature abdicated its duties to ensure that citizens have a government, hold on,
This is the
we
line.
are entitled to a government whereby decisions are made by elected officials and not by unelected judges. Okay, that's the guarantee clause of the U.S. Constitution. From 2016, 2017, hold on, let me finish. You can say whatever you want after, and I will listen to you, but you need to listen
As long
to
as you'll
this.
listen to us, too.
Through 2016, it is unbelievable, really it is. Through 2016, 2017, and 2018, under the Republican council majority, we kept all council members fully informed and always obtained a consensus as to taking any action whatsoever regarding affordable housing. In 2019, and this is why we're here today, the Democratic council majority failed to keep the Republican councilman, Mr. Wu, and myself, as the mayor, informed of their actions. They hid what they were doing. They tried to secretly settle with the developer, permitting 400 high-density housing units at 800 Sylvan, and certified to the developer that neither they nor their attorneys cared about the public's opinion. I sued the council members and attorneys on my behalf and on behalf of the borough to obtain the information that was kept from me by the Democratic council majority and the attorneys that they control, such as Mr. Marinello. Noteworthy is that the judge in my case, which is the same judge in the Normandy case, still has not granted me the right to receive the information that I demanded. On January 4, 2019, the day after they took control of the council majority instructed their borough council, Albert Wunsch, to reach out to Normandy's attorneys to indicate the council majority's desire to settle and that there's a new sheriff in town. When I found out that they did that, I said, you just put blood in the water. I was cut off from virtually all communications by the Democratic council majority and the attorneys, including Mr. Serenian and Trouter, Marinello and Wunsch. In April, I learned that a highly confidential memorandum of understanding was entered into as a blueprint of settlement with Normandy and the Fair Share Housing Council. The public learned about the memorandum of understanding after a very diligent member of the public saw it on the e-court's website. It wasn't from me. The council never told the public that they had entered into a memorandum of understanding, and the council still has not made it public, but threatened me if I made it public, even though there is no confidentiality provision in the MOU. The terms of settlement were going to be recited by the borough's attorneys to all residents in June without an opportunity for public comment. So they were going to pontificate to you, and you could not ask questions.
That's what...
I immediately and very vocally objected to silencing our public's residents, and instead I chaired a public meeting on July 10th, 2019, where over 300 people protested the high-density housing settlement in agreement with Councilman Wu and me. The truth hurts, I know, but listen. The Democratic council majority finally agreed with me to litigate the matter.
Right.
But it was half-hearted, and no real fight was put forward. And to this day, they are not aggressively fighting Normandy. I provided a litigation plan to our attorneys, and it has been wholly ignored as far as I know. In subsequent court filings, we were all able to read for ourselves how the Democratic council majority, Wunsch and others, told Normandy that they had no regard for the public's views on the matter, and the settlement would be rammed through. I had to read this from the Normandy papers attaching our lawyers' emails. The subcommittee, Aversa, and Sabari, continue to evade the...
Oh, you keep saying, Park. It's been Park since day one.
That's right, you take credit for that.
Yes.
You take credit.
Right.
Continue to evade the...
It's been 4 years, you're getting
subcommittee...
Gloria every time.
Now, the subcommittee was only around for 7 months. They continue to evade the full governing body and make decisions without having the authority to do so. Albert Wunsch continues to evade the full governing body, and he makes decisions without having any authority to do so. The borough's attorneys have taken no discovery concerning fair share housing centers' funding sources and potential conflicts of interest. As a result, we don't know if Normandy contributes to the Fair Share Housing Center. Given their actions and inaction since January 3rd, I tried to terminate all borough attorneys working on this matter, and I also asked for their resignations so that other attorneys could be retained to best serve the borough's interests. They refused to resign, this council refuses to terminate them. A trial is scheduled for October 11th. So here are my questions, which are probably your questions as well. Who is funding Fair Share Housing Council? Why does Fair Share Housing Council have legal standing? They don't own any property here. They're not a part of the government.
By the way, you can't search his name.
Why won't...
All he does is do actual work. He says that inside.
I made a mistake earlier. I gave Ellen a power bar.
No, I think it's hilarious that you're saying he's talking about litigation, when you have no litigation experience whatsoever.
No, I do, actually, and that's where you're wrong. And
Foolish
I regret...
and look for his any kind of decision by him.
All right. I regret giving you that energy bar. Okay, thank you. Why won't the legislature act? Well, why won't the legislature act? They could fix all this.
But Mario, we can't...
Why won't you run? You'll wait for your turn. There'll be public comment later.
Situation.
Why won't your own state legislators, Senator Weinberg, Assemblywoman Huddle, and Assemblyman Johnson do anything? Why won't they act? Why did the 2019 council abandon all work on the Hudson Terrace plan with 100% affordable housing, and instead they pursued the high-density 400-unit plan? Who benefits from the high-density housing plan pushed by the 2019 council majority other than Normandy? Think in terms of mortgage banks, insurance companies, title companies, lawyers. You got it?
Well, then you work for it.
No, I don't work for them. Why did council members, I don't do real estate law, why did council members of Sabari, Song, and Park all agree, why did you all agree with the developer to permit that construction of 400 units? Well, we had approved a plan for 77 units, and we could have increased that plan.
You know the 77 didn't work.
Right, but we had a Plan A, and then we had a Plan A plus, okay? Why have Councilman Wu and I been excluded from communications? Why did our attorneys also
We're not
exclude us?
excluded.
We were
That's another
excluded.
lie.
Why won't the judge issue an order providing me with the information I requested?
I don't know.
Why was the first order in the case signed by Judge Padovano when Beatty Padovano represents Normandy Development? Why do New Jersey affordable housing laws not consider school impact and environmental impact? Why does the state require Englewood Cliffs to have send-receive relationships with Englewood schools, but not permit us a joint affordable housing obligation? Why is Karen Geiger from Iron Cliffs fighting against the borough on behalf of the developer? Did Normandy executives contribute to the political campaigns of people who are now helping them build high-density housing in Englewood Cliffs? Did Normandy tell their investors that...
You would be afraid you're going to lose, that you're lying like this.
I have no... It's just I am not afraid of anything, especially you.
So afraid.
Did Normandy tell their investors that 800 Sylvan was a commercial redevelopment or a residential redevelopment?
It doesn't matter.
None
of that's helping.
Hold on, let me finish this. Hold on, you're interrupting me. Did Normandy tell their investors that 800 Sylvan was a commercial redevelopment or a residential development, notwithstanding the commercial zoning? Watch your mouth. If you're going to call me names, you can leave, okay? Because I have enough editorial boards calling me names, okay? From them and from you, you're all the same. You can leave, okay? We don't need to have name calling, okay? Attack the issue, not the person. All right, get out of here if you're going to do that.
Oh, my God.
I intend...
He's a resident, Mayor.
I intended that this list of facts and questions...
Your facts.
I intended that this list of facts and questions serve to inform our residents as to the true, complete, and correct facts, as I know them today, as to what has happened and what is happening
You're misleading.
with respect to the borough's affordable housing obligations. A major reason I believe it necessary to present this to you is, quite frankly, because the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Iron Cliffs, and its publishers Geiger and Liascos Fair, along with its founder, Councilwoman Sabari, have turned this matter into a political spin session without regard for truth, and certainly without regard for the hard work, long hours, and financial risk taken by all residents.
Year to year.
Yeah, well, it's all lies anyway.
It's disrespectful, continually, every meeting.
Sorry, there are a lot of lies in that. A lot of lies.
You're not supposed to borrow hearing.
I told you that. I will listen to you. I will listen to you.
This is not about politics.
I will listen to you. A major reason,
We're here.
You're making it political.
look, as I told you, I'm not afraid of anything, but you apparently are afraid of the people who control you, okay?
Nobody controls me, Mayor, including you.
Yeah, you versa
Including you.
You're a
Home
bully.
watching.
You're a bully. Right. Let me finish up, and then you can have your word.
You're a bully.
Let me finish up. A major reason I believe it's necessary to present this to you is quite frankly because the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Eye on the Cliffs, and its publishers, Geiger Liascos Fair, along with its founder, Councilwoman Sabari, have turned this matter into a political spin session without regard for the truth, and certainly without regard for the hard work, long hours, and financial risks taken by all residents in order to live in Englewood Cliffs. At the end of the day, I assure you that none of these editors or publishers, not the legislature, not the developer, not even Fair Share Housing, really care about anyone having a better home, a better school, or better quality of life. They don't care. All they care about is shifting the value from all residents' homes and hard work to the pockets of their friends and financial supporters. That's all they care about. This has become the new New Jersey way of life. And based on the overwhelming public comments to the Record, Star Ledgers, and Eye on the Cliffs, anti-Englewood Cliffs name-calling hit pieces, the residents of this town and state overwhelmingly reject everything that they're doing. They reject socialism, they reject corruption, they reject reallocation of value, they reject reallocation of income, and they reject elected officials like our 5 Democratic council members because they do what they're told by the state Democrats and by their financial backers. I thank all of you have joined me in this fight. With your help, it's far from over. And we will be able to satisfy all our applicable laws on our own under home rule, which is what I set out to do until this council took control of the governing body this year.
Okay.
All right?
May I have the floor? You said you would give me a chance after you were done.
You have the floor. Attack the issue, not the person.
Okay. So you say all this and you say it's not political. It's clear that everybody who's watching at home knows that this is political. But that being said...
It's the truth.
Right? It's not the truth.
The truth hurts.
It's your truth, right? But that being said, you know, we've all lived here for a long time, right? And we can agree to disagree, but the way you act as a mayor, it's my way or the highway, and for that matter, professionals that you hired, who now, you don't agree with your tactics, right? Which is, I don't know, if your mom never told you, you get honey, you know...
Leave my mom out of this.
Well, you can catch bees with honey rather than vinegar. You upset everyone. You divide all of us, and now we're in the situation.
Well, New Jersey's not treating you with honey.
Let me finish, right? And now you want to fire the professionals that you hired, that you felt that was competent and experienced.
You repurposed them to the detriment of this town.
We rewashed them. That's what he keeps saying.
Listen,
That's
folks,
not the case.
lawyers and experts, they just do what you tell them.
No,
Ellen, there's that Councilman Park. There's nothing wrong with firing people you've hired. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
That is correct. However, they are doing their jobs, and just because they do not agree with the mayor...
They shifted, they
and
pivoted.
then they agree...
They pivoted when there was a change in control of the
And that's
council.
why I'm saying, people who don't understand litigation like the mayor, things change daily when you go to court.
Folks, except that you're losing value to
Right.
us. But you'll lose 30% of your home value.
That's what they're trying to say. They're trying to scare everyone.
And you think that being nice to these people is going to help you. All right.
Being nice.
You guys are getting run over, and you're being
Right.
told what to do.
Exactly. By who?
I have a long list.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying.
Every Democrat in the state government.
Our Englewood Cliffs residents are smart to figure it out. If we could have done what he's saying, we would have done it already. And the fact of the matter is, last year, you guys had control and did nothing. And now we're here, and now you're saying that it's our fault. But in reality, you had control
Let
last
me
year.
answer that, though. Let me answer that, because that's a good comment.
That is true.
Okay, let me answer that question. So, folks, I want you to think about something. If it's 100% affordable housing, I am speaking, Mr. Luciano.
Why, the other side is screaming.
You could both leave.
Okay.
Over there, okay?
You have to stop.
Comments over there, okay?
You-
Quick question.
You have to stop.
No, you
I think that...
have to treat everybody the same.
Ms. McGuire, will you stop? Mr. Luciano, will you also just stop? Because this is your third strike, so you're out.
Stop attacking the person.
Well, here's the thing, folks.
Okay.
If you do 100% affordable...
My name like 5 times.
Folks, think about it. If you do 100% affordable housing, who makes money? No one. If you do high-density housing, where every unit of affordable housing has 3 units of market-price housing, who makes money? That's what this is all about. They're stealing your money. And New Jersey, let them do this, okay?
Jersey.
This is the law, right? This is the law.
It is the law. The law needs to be changed.
It is the law, but you know what, Mayor?
And I know you want your friends to make the mortgages on these houses, but they're not going to.
Who are my friends in the mortgage business? I'm not in the mortgage business.
No, it's your friends.
So the reality is, okay, that this started when the application was denied by the planning board. That's the reality. If everybody in the planning board knew that this was going to be their plan to do residential, and it was recorded, I listened to the recording, I mean, there are people out there who complained when Chaffee was recording, but yet, all of a sudden, we have recordings of private conversations and closed sessions, so, it makes you wonder what's right and what's
Not
wrong.
true. Now you're lying.
It's okay for the goose, but not for the
Lying,
gander.
Deb?
Now,
Now you're lying.
bottom line, let me finish.
Now you're lying.
Let me finish.
There's no recording of closed
Okay,
session.
there is a recording.
There's no recording of closed
Of
session.
Yes, it was.
No, it was not closed
Listen
session.
to the recording. You gave the residents a piece of it.
No.
A little piece.
Was
That's all
it-
you gave them.
We got
They should listen
lying
to it.
Deb and lying Ed over here.
They should listen to it. They should listen to the recordings, and I'm talking about all the recordings.
Well, tell the truth.
Can you let me
No
finish?
name calling, Mayor.
Mario, you said you would let me speak.
Finish,
okay?
speak to the 40 points.
I'm going to speak.
There's 40 of
No,
them.
I'm not speaking to your points because most of them are lies. So,
Which ones are lies?
This all started...
Which ones are lies?
Wait, can you please let me...
Which ones are lies?
Okay, I didn't come here with a prepared report like you, because that's political.
That's because you do things in the back room.
Borough business. Nobody's dealing with anything in the back room. You would like to believe that, okay?
Just say
The bottom line is,
said.
that 77-unit plan...
Lawsuit.
was
Here,
never-
it's listen
Ellen.
to everyone. He got sued for fraud by his client. Right? That's on Pacer.
Careful.
Look it up. You can read everything.
Careful.
Decision, stealing.
Careful.
Okay.
It's open public. You can look it up on Pacer yourself. Look up Cranjack.
I will, I'll share this with you, and as Lieutenant Tracy walks by laughing, it's kind of funny.
This is your mayor.
I respect
Calling everybody else a liar. He's the one.
look, I'm very proud of my career of 30 years as an attorney. I've done a lot, I've paid a lot of
You said
payroll.
that to keep it
I-
sealed,
I-
correct?
No,
That's what the
no,
decision said.
in fact, you
Yeah.
should read on.
I'll bring it.
Okay.
I'll bring it.
Well,
back to
there's
affordable
full
housing.
indication, but look, she's attacking me as an attorney, so, there's a code of ethics that says you shouldn't be doing that, Alan.
Attorney, I never got sued by a client, not one time.
You never took a single
Yeah,
client.
Okay,
Right.
I've got the floor, thank you.
For fraud.
So I'm very proud of my career as an attorney. You're welcome to talk to the investors of that company.
Yeah.
You're welcome to talk to them because they and I still,
Okay,
we foreclosed on that
Yeah.
intellectual property, okay?
So, yeah.
okay, can I continue?
Is that the best you have? You're
So-
going to regurgitate old things?
Well, you've been doing that all meeting about
All right,
freezing.
let's open to the public.
No, I'm not opening, you're not opening to the public until I get to speak what I have to say. Please, please, okay? So, if in fact we knew that this was the plan all along, so then why didn't we just approve the corporate application instead of having them file a builder's remedy? Now, remember, this town was in compliance, okay, through 2015. Our immunity expired 3 days before this mayor's council tried to extend their immunity. So we had a period of time where we were exposed, and that's when Normandy came in with their builder's remedy suit. Yes, it is true. Mayor, let me finish, okay? We were always in compliance.
We never lost
We were always in
immunity until last
compliance. It
month.
was not the fault of the Democrats that they were in...
You lost immunity last month.
Okay? But
I always had it.
Okay?
Nice try. It's the truth. We always had immunity. They lost it last month.
No, immunity was lost because of your comments. Now, you know, it all sounds lovely. The mayor would like you to believe that it's actually possible that you can go and appeal because the school systems are going to be affected, or because the infrastructure is going to be affected. But that's not the reality, because they don't care, okay? It doesn't come into play. So we sit here and say, and everybody's getting all upset, and, certain people are making them believe that there actually is an opportunity. 300 of 330 towns have settled. There's a reason for that. Do you really think that the courts are going to turn around and change it for Englewood Cliffs? We have to look at what we're doing here. If we can build, we'll build it ourselves. But remember, it comes with a very hefty price. I warned you that we were taking risk here, substantial risk. And look what happened. When you stand up in front of the public and you make racist comments, and you talk about socialism, and you talk about politics, look what happened. This judge took away our immunity.
So you're saying that the judge made a political decision?
No, what I'm saying...
I like judges that make decisions on the law,
What I'm
okay?
saying is, for whatever reason, she made that decision, and I
respect the judge. She's wrong, though. She's wrong on the law, she's wrong on the facts. She's wrong.
You talk about fair share housing. Maybe, you've got all these ideas, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but the reality is...
Well, I'll tell you one thing for
That's
sure.
not going to help our residents.
One thing for sure is when you guys decided to stop trying to develop Hudson Terrace, you condemned this town, and it's on your back.
That's not true. I didn't condemn this town.
Yeah, you did. You stopped doing our plan.
600 units on 800 Sylvan, and every other developer comes in now because we lost our immunity. That's
You
on
lost
your
immunity.
back.
No, no.
That's on...
Actually, you lost immunity.
We're back for not approving it.
I had a beautiful plan, folks. It was 100%
Your
affordable
plan
housing.
didn't work, and your attorneys told you that.
Sorry, Mayor, the plan is that it wasn't enough units. That was the problem with the plan.
Right, and then, and there was,
That wasn't enough.
there were 4 options to increase those units, okay? You guys ignored them.
You know what, you...
You know why you ignored them? Because you wanted to take the path of least resistance, the most political gain for your friends, and the
That's
most
not
money
true.
for your friends.
That's not true.
That's true.
No. You never even looked at the dollars and
If you
cents
were
of
so
anything.
correct, why did you settle your own case? Your whole lawsuit, you settled allegations against fraud.
So Ellen, the adults in the room are actually talking about affordable
Right,
housing,
adults.
and you're playing with crayons over here,
You
okay?
had, because you settled why? I don't know. Because
All right.
that's the financial thing to do.
I am happy
Nobody
to...
on this council is making a
I am
dime
happy to
from
say...
Hard
anybody.
decision.
There is no corruption.
You're
I know
cashing in.
that that's what's being said out there because certain people are putting it out there.
It's
But
true.
that's all
Your
wrong.
friends are all going to make a ton of money.
Corruption.
I think that's...
I don't even need a ton of money.
All right, let's open to the public.
That's just...
Can I have a motion to
not
open to the
true.
public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
So if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, and I encourage that you do be heard, raise your hand, let me call on you. Come up and sit down at the table here and speak into one of the microphones. State your name and address, please. Mr. Aversa wants to limit your time. I don't want to limit your time. Yes. It's when the speaker is done speaking.
Is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes? 5 minutes.
Angela Chen, 22 Sarah Hill Lane. My question is, if the 77 units are not satisfying, and the mayor said there are 4 options, I just heard, to increase the units so we can satisfy, why it's not considered?
We're considering all the options.
No, you're not. Actions, not words.
Because
Incorrect.
I think
That 77, though, is not going to happen.
a couple of facts that, the council has passed to do the building ourselves. But then a month later, or I don't remember the exact time, and then the attorney was sent to negotiate the settlement with Normandy. Are these true? That's true, right? Because that's from the courts.
Everything I said
filing.
is true.
It's not, I want to hear, if you guys think that's not the truth, then tell us, what's the truth behind that? What make you, if you feel the 77 units are not enough, then consider, if we increase the units to say 100-something, it's still fewer than the 400. I understand there's costs associated with that. I understand there's, if we need to move, what I read is we need to move the police station, something like that. That's a cost.
We could do it without moving.
And if we build that, there's cost to the residents, of course. But the 400 units, once those are built, the school can afford it. And then we have to build more school, and we have to pay for more students to go to high school if they decide to go to Englewood for high school, right? We have to pay for that too. So that's substantial more cost. So, like, everybody here is well-educated. I just don't get it. If we say, I think 100 and something units, even 77, don't satisfy, 100 and something will satisfy, and why don't we just figure out ways to create that 100 and something instead of allowing the high density? So what's the reason behind that?
Finish your time.
Yeah, that's my major question. I don't get it, so, yeah.
So if you're done, Angela,
Yeah.
you can sit there and the council could discuss and answer if that's okay.
And,
We
yeah,
don't want to take your time, so if you're
Okay.
done, that's fine.
if I have another question, then I...
Oh, then you can stay.
Why don't you stay and then let them answer, and then...
They stopped the timer.
All right, we stopped the timer.
Okay, I'm done with the...
All right, so somebody answer her question, please.
Would you like to?
I can answer it, or you can answer it.
So the first thing is that adding units is a tricky situation too. If you add units without acquiring more property, you increase the density on that site, which also means that our number from the state, affordable housing, increases as well. So it's a very tricky situation. You can't just say, we have, a lot, and we're going to build, 100 units on that lot. Because it has to do, that's why it gets a little complicated. It has to do with how many units per acre you fit. So the more units you stick on a piece of property, the more units that Fair Share Housing argues that they could put more.
Yeah.
That the town is required to put even more units. So it's a very tricky situation. You need to have enough property to satisfy that density.
Ms. Chang, let me just interject and rebut. We actually had a plan to acquire and control additional property.
But, sir, my second question is, if that's true, then if we have 400 units being built, then we're jeopardized because they can come back and say, you need to build more. Would that be like...
Affordable housing. But,
Yeah. You kind of take that.
can I, so, first of all, I just want to say that if the 77 was approved, we need approval. It's not like just, we can do this. It needs to be approved. Then, of course, we would all went forward, but it was never approved, okay? And as far as the number of, add more numbers to the affordable housing, what if they come back with a number, after we go through all of this, it says you need to build 200, and we don't have enough land that we can acquire to build that number? Then the builder still can come in and say, well, we can build it on our site, right? So that's like the worst case. You gotta think of what your worst case scenario is and what your best case scenario is. And as far as the 400 units over at Sylvan, that was just a proposal. It was never, like I said, 100 times, it was never agreed, we have to have a baseline of what it is that they were proposing to us, that we can disclose to everyone. We had that upper school, that was the disclosure, right? No one seemed to, at that time, want to do that, and we were okay with it. So we said, okay, we're going to continue, and this is where we are now. Now, as far as building our own, again, it depends on the number. It's not just something that we can say, we're going to do 77, okay? No, it doesn't work that way. We have to get approval. If we say, okay, we can do 125, it still may not be approved. So where is the limit?
It may not be enough.
Let me rebut that, though. You presented on July 10th to the town that you were advocating for 400 units. It wasn't just a proposal. It was almost, you signed an MOU. You signed an MOU.
Actually, our attorneys
That's right.
They wanted us to settle.
By our professionals.
Oh. They felt that we would lose.
You're throwing them under the bus now.
I have a last
I'm not.
question. I have one more question. The MOU. Is it by law that the council has to consult the residents before signing the MOU?
No.
Because it's behalf of us.
They should have consulted the entire council, not just the subcommittee. Let me tell you the procedure. What they did was, they had three 3 people from the council agree to this, not the entire council.
That's not true.
In terms of New Jersey law, the council can only act as a council. They should have came out and actually asked for permission from the entire governing body, which includes me, I break ties, but they didn't do that.
Break ties, because we don't have a tie
All
here.
right, so,
No.
let me just say one thing to that memorandum of understanding that the mayor keeps on pontificating that there's something wrong with it. It was
You agree with it?
obviously it was non-binding, because are we in court saying that we have to do exactly what that memorandum said, Mario? No, don't lie to the
Well,
people.
I'm not lying. That was the intention of what you wanted to do.
It's non-binding, but we shouldn't have anchored anywhere. We shouldn't have anchored anywhere with that negotiation.
Negotiating
We
101.
anchored at 400 there, right? Bottom line.
That was a baseline, yes.
It
That
was a
what was
baseline.
the-
We didn't need to do that.
Right?
We didn't need to do
Do
that.
that. Well, you know
The
what?
court didn't accept,
Now we all...
they didn't accept the 77, but they didn't reject it either.
Well, we found out...
Good point.
Good
point.
They rejected it. They sure did
They
reject
didn't
it.
reject it.
When did
They
they
never
reject it?
rejected it.
Is our number 77?
They never rejected our proposal.
Yes, they did.
You know they did, Mario.
No, you didn't.
Oh.
No, you can play all the games you want, Ed. These people are too smart for you.
You want to give Mary a call and see?
Angela, I'm sorry, I tried to answer your question, I hope I...
Sorry, Angela.
The memorandum was non-binding, there's no commitment by this council or this town for anything to do with that. So anything he's pontificating about it is not true. I'm telling you here, on record, in public, it's non-binding.
You're backpedaling so much, Ed, you're gonna fall off a cliff.
Angela, also your question in regards to the schools, when you look at the numbers, there's not a big difference. If you do all affordable housing ourselves, we have the school system impact is very close to the same. It's not a big difference. Because
With 5 times the...
No, these are, Mr. Barry, these are smart people. They're smart, okay? They're not gonna fall for that.
Mayor, how dare you even suggest that I'm saying otherwise? This town is paid for reports,
They're
okay?
brilliant people.
You know what they say.
You pay for the report that you get.
So, I am telling you that professionals have done studies on this.
Right, and when they were our professional, the study was different.
That's not true, Mario. That's not true.
Same professional.
That's not true.
Don't talk to
Okay?
Councilwoman McMorro. Don't look at Councilwoman McMorro.
I know the report that she's speaking of, and she got there and waved it, but didn't show anything. But I am telling you that the reports, we're kind of, the Democrats sit here, and we keep our mouths shut because we're not supposed to speak about certain things, but I'm getting kind of tired of it. Because the reality is, okay, that the school system impact is not going to be much different if you build 400 on 800 Sylvan, or if you build 143 elsewhere.
But once we change the
That's just the
zoning,
reality.
this 400 units are just a starting point, right?
You're still going to have 430
More
unmet units.
high-density housing the developer will come to build. So even the town people agree with the 400, it's going to be more. That's the
Ms.
reality.
Chang, the document, what she told you about the school children is rooted in a false premise, and the false premise is the following. They said that people who own a one-bedroom unit will have no children. That's the premise, and that's why she's saying that it's the same effect. It's not true. It's not true.
That's actually not
Raise your
true,
hand,
Mayor.
sir.
That actually is not true.
Yeah.
That's
We went through
not
that,
true.
and Allen Park tried to...
The same studies were done in other towns.
I just afraid that the 400 is just a starting point, and it turns our town to Fort Lee and Edgewater. That's what I'm afraid of.
Right.
My property value is already down.
Absolutely right, though. And that's, right now, this town has lost its
So
community.
that's why, as people from this town, we hope the council can stop during negotiation of settlement and try to fight all together, unitedly, try to fight the developer on behalf of us. Seriously, that's what we want. That's what we want.
That's what we're doing.
I seriously, as a people living in this town, I don't want to be involved in political fights, but I just want to see the council fight for us.
But we are in court now, and we are fighting for our right to do...
Okay.
No, you're not.
So, thank
They're
you
not.
very much.
They're not. They're not fighting.
I hope.
They're not fighting. I told them how to fight, and they refused to fight.
Oh, my God.
We are They're not going to fight for you.
Yeah, okay.
That's, Mr. Walter's in politics at all.
We're not gonna fight for you. I said
That's,
it.
that's so not true.
It's
I
not...
gave them a list of things to do. You know what they did?
Why didn't you fight your lawsuit again?
No,
Sorry.
that's not true.
Just,
We all have
I'm
to-
leaving here now, but I
Thank
just
you.
want you guys to keep in mind, just fight for us.
We're fighting for ourselves too. We're residents here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not like we don't have any taxes.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Split up $800.
Yes. Yeah, he did. He did.
Come on, man, if you don't believe me, it's the same thing. I didn't say a damn thing.
He said, "You got us into this," was actually the quote.
You what?
"You got us into this."
Yeah.
Marina, you think I said that? That's cool.
Mr. Luciano, you know, you sit there, you call out.
Accused of things I didn't...
If you're gonna add anything to this conversation, raise your hand and come up.
I didn't say anything.
Russell Perino, 220 Fairview Avenue. Good evening. I want to try to set the record straight a little bit. There's been a pretty good volleying back and forth of information. I'm one of 3 people that were involved. Actually, the only person probably in this room that was involved since June, July of 2017. So I know the facts as they went from then through at least January 7th, when I was cut out of the process, let's say, of affordable housing compliance. It's always difficult for me because I have to measure my words. I say almost, I think every time I get up here that I have no bias against Normandy or any other developer. So I measure my words. The fact that the planning board keeps being brought up at these meetings over and over again by sitting council people, never mind members of the public, is really, really unfortunate. There are so many other things that should be talked about here than the planning board. Notwithstanding that fact, information keeps coming forward, right, that indicates that Normandy may have had another plan, right? You can talk about the infamous Shapezi email asking for all documents related to affordable housing that came in after their application was filed before the planning board, but before the meetings actually started, right? You can draw your own conclusion. Recently, an audio tape of a meeting that was attended by Normandy officials and certain representatives of the borough indicated more information, right? And this is an officer of Normandy who spoke quite clearly about, at least in my mind, what their intent was. So I really ask the council members in their official capacities to stop laying the blame at the planning board. Planning board is part of this municipality, right? And you're basically blaming yourselves and ourselves. So just stop. There's been enough of it, all right? You need to find solutions here and not point fingers. And I say that sincerely. And I know it's political season, and I'm sure it'll be front headlines like it was last year, and even the year before. But it's not right. And you're doing the public a disservice by trying to distract them from the facts. And the facts are that through January 7th of 2019, this borough had immunity. The fact that there was a 3 or 4 day potential lapse is not an issue. It's been decided by the judge, it's been appealed, but it wasn't an issue. What caused this issue, from my professional opinion, and I was involved in this as much as anyone, except for Carol McMorrow, who spent a little more time than me, not much. I spent probably 25, 30 hours a week on this last year. The fact of the matter is, this council and this governing body has to have a strategy, right, where you move in one direction. When you flip 180 degrees at any particular time or place, that causes grave consequences. So if you had, in January, continued with the plan that we had, and there was a Plan B, I call it Plan C, Plan D. I can't tell you what those options were. You may know about them now, you may not. If we were short on our RDP, and we still don't know, Councilman Aversa, we still don't know. Until the judge puts her gavel down and says, your RDP is X, we don't know what that is. We have some indication based upon the special master's report, what it may be. She could say it's less, she could say it's more. It's not confirmed until the judge says so. The point is, I'm sure the attorneys have told you that the borough should have the right to cure, right? So if we're short, the expectation is we should have the opportunity to create another fair share plan to accommodate that new number. Now, the situation's changed drastically. And that is the cause of it is the 180-degree flip. If there's going to be a question of listening to the residents and having the residents come out and speak, that should have been done in January. Taking their temperature then and said, you know, you could have made the calculation to either continue on with the litigation or turn 180 degrees. You couldn't do it after 8 months of the judge giving you more time to try to settle, and then at the last minute, the carpet's pulled out. What do people expect? So, please don't blame the planning board. Please don't blame the team that worked their asses off, excuse my French, from 2017 through the end of 2018, formulating a plan. There was not just a housing plan that you saw, there was plans B, C, and D. And I could recite them right here, right now. I can't do it. You've never invited me, and that's on you. If you say you have no other choices, you don't know what to do, well, maybe you should have brought us in then. You could still bring me in now. I'd be happy to sit with you. I've made that clear probably 5 or 6 times last year. You didn't take me up on it. You can tell the public why. What was so important that you felt that having the people involved in that for that period of time, that was in every meeting, every conversation, every mediation, not pull some kernels of information from them before you decide you're going to march off in a direction and then turn 180 degrees 8 months later? Shame on you. And I'm speaking to the council majority. You cannot say that the MOU...
With all due respect.
I'm not going to finish my statement, then you can please respond. I've seen the E-Court's filings. The fact that there is correspondence from Mr. Serenian that spoke about adjusting the terms of that MOU so that only the subcommittee, that's of 3 people, would be the party authorizing the signature of that document, says a lot. When you say the mayor wasn't excluded, why was there a change in the terms of the MOU required that wouldn't have included all of you folks up here? I don't know who learned what when, but I do know that letter speaks volumes about the fact that there was a specific intent by members of this council to keep it within that committee and not bring it to the entire council, including the mayor. That's my opinion.
No, that's not true.
It's true. It's corruption. Follow the money.
You were very well aware of the MOU.
Yes, thank you.
Say corruption, I'm gonna bring a copy for everyone to read next.
Go ahead, bring it.
One more time.
That's fine, Ellen.
Okay.
That's fine. I've had a very nice legal career. I'm very proud of everything I accomplished,
Okay, we'll do that.
which seems to be that I've accomplished a lot more than you did.
Yeah, next meeting, everybody show up, I'll give you a copy of the...
Okay. It's okay.
He stole his client's idea.
No, not true.
Stick to this problem.
Right.
Yeah, she can't, because you know why? She's a child.
He is doing what he's doing. Right.
She can't.
Right, I can't.
You can't. You cannot be professional
I
in the
can't
council
be
level.
professional. I think he called me corrupt, and I'm supposed to take it from a man who got sued by his clients for fraud? You think that's okay? He's called me corrupt 5 times in this meeting, and that's okay?
Folks, this is what I have to deal with, okay? We're talking about the character of this council.
People at home not see that you called me corrupt 5 times? I'm an attorney too.
I'm agreeing, can we just...
Right.
I'm agreeing with all of you.
Move on. Stop.
This is a public time. You don't call me corrupt then.
You defaming every time.
Do not call me corrupt then.
You guys are.
Right.
You're doing it again.
All right.
Come on, let's just move on.
Are we done? Are you done?
Carol McMorrow, 489 Summit Street. Can the public, is this working? Hello?
Yeah. Yes,
Can you hear me?
close.
Okay. I want to set some facts straight. I'm going to piggyback on what Mr. Perino said. I'm going to ask you not to please yell, scream, call names. You know, you guys say that you are concerned for the residents in this town and the well-being, but I come here or watch the videos, and I hear you yell and fight about this subject matter like a bunch of 2-year-olds. Ms. Sabari, you need to control yourself. You came into this council, and I appreciate your wanting to do a great job. I appreciate that. But you are arguing, fighting, and you are causing a lot of issues for this town, and I don't know that you're aware of what you're doing. I'm going to try, and I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here, and I'm asking all of you to put the politics aside and to work for the residents that are in the back of me and that are going to watch this video, okay? Because we are in a dire situation right now, and I am trying to do everything I can as the former liaison for affordable housing to this council, even though you have treated myself and Mr. Perino like garbage. But I'm putting that aside because I have an obligation as a former elected official to do the right thing for these residents, and that's what I'm trying to do. I encourage every resident that's sitting behind me to go on to eCourts and look at Mr. Albert Wunsch's latest filing on eCourts dated September 10th. He took 6 pages and trashed myself and Mr. Perino and the mayor about affordable housing issue. I was left no choice but to file a certification myself to the court, to Judge Farrington, to set the records straight. The politics has to start. Stop. Mr. Wunsch has been, I pulled his vendor report. He has been paid $141,000 by this council for 4 to 5 months of work. They are paying him another $70,000 to $80,000 on top of that, on these resolutions. And Mr. Wunsch is causing, if you read this from this public filing, why is he attacking the 2 people, myself and Mr. Perino? I'm going to leave the mayor out of this. Who are witnesses to all of the good work that the borough did. Forget that him and I did it. That the borough did for its affordable housing plan. Why would you trash your 2 witnesses that are going to go and be deposed on behalf of this borough and say, all the work we did? It doesn't make any sense. You need to stop. We are one town. You're attacking the planning board constantly. You attack me for taping that meeting. I am proud that I taped that meeting. I do not meet with a developer that requests a meeting unless I have a tape recorder running, because I don't want to ever be accused of a bribe or be accused of soliciting a bribe, okay? Let me tell you that. A tape recording is going to run. It was not mediation. It was a recording. Then do not make allegations and compare me to a police chief that threatened my life and talked about sexual activities. Don't go there. She brought it up.
No one brought it up.
Yes, she's brought it up before. Guys, we're here again. I stated, we will help you. We will do anything we need, Mr. Perino or I, to help you if you don't have the answers. But you need to put the politics aside and say, Mrs. McMorrow, come and help us on the affordable housing. Come and let us know what you know, what you did, what your thoughts were, what we could do. What are your thoughts? What is the downside to get all of the information possibly to help this town to be a positive thing? I don't see the downside to it. But you continually, and you got us into this mess by doing what you did with Normandy. Normandy themselves filed certifications against the town, stating that you called a secret meeting in Al Wunsch's office and let them know that there's a new sheriff in town. 800 Sylvan filed a certification against you guys. There's no politics there. I'm assuming if there were certifications that they were telling the truth. So if we lost immunity, guys, we lost it because of your actions. What you did, the judge, in my opinion, I read her order, what she viewed, your 180-degree turnaround, she thought was not acting in good faith. Okay, we still have an opportunity, I believe, to do the right thing here and show her all of the good efforts that we made. I'm getting deposed on September 25th. I will be telling the truth about every single thing that I have knowledge of, that I'm allowed to speak about, obviously not attorney-client privilege, but of all the hard work that we did on behalf of the borough. And I ask you again to stop, because someone is instructing Mr. Wunsch to do these filings. This is hurting the borough. Forget the politics. I don't care who he likes, who he doesn't like, doesn't matter. It's hurting the borough. This needs to stop. We need to unite as one group, Republicans, Democrats aside, on the affordable housing issue, and work as a team. We owe it to this town. Please, the offer stands again.
Thank you.
I'm here for you.
Thank you, and I agree with you. Mr. Wunsch should not be filing documents criticizing anyone on his team, but he can't help himself, because he's not here to represent the borough. He's here to represent a political party that have the borough pay him for it.
There goes the politics again.
It's true.
That's
It's
not
true.
true.
The guy screams at me all the time. He doesn't listen to a word I say, and this is why we have the mess, okay?
That's not true.
And by the way, Mr. Wunsch never did any affordable housing work prior to January, and yet we just paid him $140,000
Mr. Wunsch is...
to learn how to do this, and they didn't do a very good job of it either. Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes, sir.
Please don't try to intimidate me. Please don't try to intimidate me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Luciano does that often.
Just saying, I'm a perfect gentleman. Please don't try to intimidate me. You don't know anything about me. My name is Tim Petrobis. I live on 54 Hickory Street. Alas, we meet right in Mr. Aversa. You had some choice words for me before, and I'm just wondering...
I have choice words.
Yeah, anyway, you know. I'm just wondering, did I do something to make you angry?
Did I do something to make you angry? Let's put it that way.
Not at all, sir.
I filed a petition against you.
That's right, and I just want to make it clear that it's my constitutional right to do so.
I understand.
Do we understand that? So there's no reason
You don't have to
for you to
explain
be...
it to me, my friend.
Okay. I'm not your friend.
Thank God.
I'm not your friend. I'm not Gloria O's friend. I'm not Ellen Park's friend. I'm not the mayor's friend. I'm not anybody's here friend. You made a statement about me. I just want to ask. You say that I...
A statement about you.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit louder, please, so we
Yes.
can hear you.
I made a statement against the recall committee, and I just want to know what the basis of that statement is. You said that the recall committee is working with Mayor Kranjak. What is your basis of that?
What is your basis for your petition?
I'm the one that's asking the question, sir.
I don't have to answer you, my friend.
Okay.
So, continue.
I'd like to ask...
Recalling.
I'm sorry?
I'm curious. I don't know you either. I'm curious, why are you recalling? What is
Why am I recalling?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I would like to answer that
And
question.
by the way, Mr. Katrubis and I don't know each other.
I don't have to
We
answer...
we do not know each other.
I don't have to answer that. I'm recalling on the basis that you personally came to my home along with Deborah Tabari, and you campaigned on following through...
Ellen Park.
Yes, you, Ellen Park. You know who I am. You know who I am. You've seen me on the soccer field. Our kids go to school. You know exactly who I am. I have no personal political axe to grind with anybody here.
Okay.
You both came to my home.
Okay.
And you were soliciting my vote, and you vowed to me that you were going to follow through with the plan on Hudson Terrace. Is that accurate?
No.
No.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm telling you that you did.
So wait a minute.
I didn't even have access to that
Why
plan.
are you saying that? All we can say
I
is...
don't understand that.
Don't argue with him.
I'm just saying, I didn't have access to that plan, so I couldn't have said that.
All right, well,
We were trying to do the best that we could, and that was the plan at the time.
Okay.
So if that's what I said, then that's what I said.
Yes,
But-
that's exactly what you said. That's what you had campaigned on. So, I just wanted to ask another question.
I didn't say that. I didn't campaign last year.
You came to my home with Deborah Tabari, and you knocked on my door on a Saturday morning, I have close to a photographic memory. I do not
I'm not saying anything to your house. I'm just saying...
misrepresent things. I'm a man of integrity, and anybody that knows me in this town knows that one thing, I do not lie. That's how I've made my bones, okay?
Sir,
You can-
so just going back to the question, what does that have to do with the recall?
I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just going to continue.
You don't
So
have
I want to ask another question at this point. There was regarding the Oprah request, right? That Oprah request was done when? In June 20th of 2017. Did you...
The
The Oprah request from Mr. Shapezi, yes, to request every document in terms of the affordable housing. Do you remember? Do you know about that? Did you know about that? Okay. Do you believe that that implies intent?
For what?
But
Intent to build residential
would
homes?
you like me to answer you?
That's the question. Do you believe that implies intent?
So, Mr. Katrubis, you're asking me if I believe a developer as big as Normandy
Right?
came to our borough with 28 acres, and you're trying to ask me that if I'm naive enough to believe that they only had one plan, one plan, so you're trying to make me, I want to make sure I understand the question.
No, I'm saying, I'm asking you, did you know about this Oprah request?
I just told you yes.
Okay. If a developer makes an Oprah request, common sense would dictate that they have an ulterior motive. It shows intent.
But Mr. Katrubis, these are massive developers. I'm a little guy, and I didn't go into a plan with more than one plan. I go into a development with more than one plan.
Anytime you get an Oprah request, doesn't mean it's one thing or
It-
another, but anyway.
Anyway, the point is, it implies intent.
I like how you guys defend Normandy.
I'm not defending
It implies intent, okay? Did you know about the Oprah request, Ms. O?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But it doesn't really necessarily prove any intent, like
Okay.
you were saying.
So, let's continue down memory lane then, okay?
Doesn't the fact that they applied for a commercial application
Right.
also imply intent?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree, but the point is, when you're making such a request, it implies another intent, right? I mean, that's what common sense would
Yeah, I agree with you. The commercial was a head fake. It was a head fake, completely.
Right, so with,
It's for information, that's what it is.
It's okay, but go ahead.
on December 10th, did the borough submit a plan for affordable housing to the court as directed by its council to commit to 57 units on Hudson Terrace that would satisfy a 77-unit obligation with no affordable housing? Was that done?
It was not to satisfy a 77-unit obligation. We did not know what the obligation was.
But did you submit a plan with 57 units?
We did.
How many units does it matter?
It was 57 plus a credit of 20 for 77.
A month prior to that, did the court approve an expenditure of the borough's trust funds for the purchase of 476 Hudson Terrace?
Yes,
Did they approve that?
yes.
When was that building purchased, please?
We don't know. Or they said.
Yeah, sure.
Closed in December, I believe.
May I ask, you sit on the council, you don't know if you purchased the building or not?
I know we bonded for it, but what day it was?
She just said that she didn't, I'm just asking.
Yeah, let me help them out. Yeah, we did purchase.
We purchased the building. If I spent $2 million on a building in this town, I would know exactly when I spent that money, right? That's what,
I said I didn't know when we closed on
I'm
it.
just asking. January 1st, you took power, correct? The Democratic Council took power?
That's incorrect.
It was January 3rd.
January 1st,
January 3rd.
January 3rd, 2019, is that correct? You took power,
We didn't take power, we took control.
took control, same thing, that's what I meant, that's what I mean. Is that accurate? You had a 5-1 margin lead? You won the election on the
Yes.
basis of of submitting this plan. Everybody in town knows it. Everybody knows what you had, everybody knows what you had campaigned on. Don't twist it. Is my time up?
No, actually, hold on a second. We let
I
other...
have a lot of important questions.
Hold on.
I'd like to hear.
Hold on a second. No, you continue speaking. We let other people speak past their 5 minutes. You get to speak.
So you took control on January 1st, right? At what point did you have your attorney reach Normandy and set a meeting? You know the meeting I'm talking about. You know the meeting...
We did it on January 4th.
January 4th.
That's not true.
Did somebody on this council...
The meeting was later. The meeting was later in the month.
Litigation, what are we doing here?
It's all publicly filed. It's public. Have you been? You could just try to jib and jive, but this is the truth.
You know what the date is.
I got
In
nothing.
January of 2019, did members of this council instruct the borough attorney to reach out to Normandy and request a meeting? Yes or no, Mr. Aversa?
We had conference...
You don't know?
Closed session.
Talk about dates and times, and I have no...
In January of 2019.
What's the next question?
Do you know when that meeting was?
No, I don't.
I see. I see.
Just like I didn't know about the 77 units when I was campaigning.
Who on this council sits on the Affordable Housing Committee, please? Did somebody answer that? You do.
Ellen Park.
I do.
Ed Aversa. Debbie Sawyer. No, I got you.
All right, so are you trying to tell me that you don't remember calling that meeting?
You're talking about dates.
I'm talking about January 2019.
We had, it would have been 19, and I wasn't on the council in 18?
I think we're going to see your
Okay.
face on the billboard tomorrow.
Say again?
They're disparaging.
Attacking, I'm asking questions.
No,
I'm
this
asking
is attacking.
But you're interrogating me, like,
Seems like you know the answer for all the questions that you're asking.
if I tell you I don't know the date exactly for January.
All right, please let him...
Are you
Stop.
campaigning
Stop.
right now?
No, I'm not campaigning. I have no political interest in this town. I have zero political interest. I'm not campaigning.
Time's up.
No, the answer to answering questions is not, his time is up. That's what you want to do.
Who told Normandy that there's a new sheriff in town?
You can email the question.
No idea.
No, I don't want to email. I want to know who told Normandy that there's a new sheriff
I
in
know,
town.
if you have it, then I
Ed
just
Wunsch.
know who it is.
Al Wunsch did.
Al Wunsch made that statement.
That was his email. And the only reason I know is it was attached to Ramos's certification in the Normandy litigation.
Would Al Wunsch make such a statement unless he was instructed to do so?
No, he took...
Or would he just go rogue and just make a statement like that? I'm just
You don't know
wondering.
Al Wunsch that well, if you ask that question.
Well, I mean,
Then we shouldn't have it.
then we should not have
No,
them.
that's it.
That's the
Look,
entire...
they instructed him. They clearly instructed him.
Okay, that's what you like to believe.
What about the stuff he said?
What about...
It's all fact-based. It's all fact-based. What facts have no feelings?
May I ask then, when Albert Wunsch sent an email requesting that the ordinance get passed without the public having any knowledge, can we talk about that?
What ordinance got passed without public knowledge?
Can you show it to us, please?
No ordinance can get passed with...
Well, it'll be the settlement. He's talking about the settlement, I believe.
Well, let him tell us what he's talking about.
Yeah, obviously, he's got his notes there that he gave me.
He never met me. No, actually, that's not a true statement. We shook hands. Well, I'll tell you when he met me, if you really want to know, since you want to know
I
everything.
don't really care personally.
You care.
He said he... You care.
We shook hands once.
Why are you getting so personal?
I'm not angry. I'm asking questions. It seems like you're the one that's angry.
You're fine, but your time's up.
What ordinance got passed?
Other people are here, everybody gets 5 minutes.
Ed,
Fair is fair.
Councilman Aversa,
5 minutes.
other people spoke past 5 minutes.
Why don't you respect the fact that this is my first time speaking up here, okay? Why don't you respect the fact that I'm trying to do the best that I possibly
very
can?
respectful.
All right, well, Mr. Albert Wunsch, Legal Weapon 3, he sent an email. It is in everyone's interest that we have one hearing, not two. So on the same night, the borough can vote on the authorization to sign the settlement and the adoption of the ordinance, that ordinance.
There is no ordinance that's been passed that's not been
Okay,
published.
so-
Every ordinance has to have a reading. I'm hoping that this is municipal.
You know which email this is, let's be realistic.
Who is it to?
Mr. Albert Wunsch wrote it to Mr. Del Vecchio,
So where am I, where's...
Yeah, I want that email.
because Albert Wunsch works for you. He works for the borough. Who instructed him?
That's ridiculous.
Wait, are you guys throwing Albert Wunsch under the bus now?
Are you gonna tell me?
Answer an email that I don't know anything about.
Hold on, can I finish this? You don't know anything about this email?
It's my...
This would eliminate the possibility that we have to vote to settle, and then is to have both hearings on the same night, specifically, so we would introduce the ordinance as soon as it's ready. That ordinance, sir.
That's how you do an ordinance. You introduce it...
Without the public's knowledge?
You don't.
You can't do it without the
You can't do it without the public's knowledge.
The settlement.
In one meeting? You cannot do an ordinance in one meeting.
Today, and then
No,
we'll
that's
have
a different ordinance.
No, I'm just saying in general.
You have an ordinance...
Mr. Katrubis, they're playing with you.
I think that you...
Mario, you know that that's not how an
I
ordinance
think,
gets
I
done. You
think
need 2
this
meetings.
council needs to be very careful, right? You might think that I'm a little nervous up here, that's fine. I won't be nervous the next time, I can assure you. But, with that being said, I think you should be a little bit more careful with how intelligent the people that we represent, okay? There's a lot of intelligent, educated people in this town, and I think that you need to be more careful. You're doing business in an antiquated way that was done 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you get away with this.
You're assuming that.
I'm assuming the town's business is being done in an antiquated way because we're living...
That's
How
incorrect.
do you know that? Give us an
Well,
example.
history predicts the future. He's right. He's right.
We are living in a digital world, and this town is filled with very educated people, and you can no longer let things fly through the night like this email.
That wouldn't be correct, sir. With all respect, nobody is, you're insinuating we're doing things we shouldn't, and you're incorrect.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Katrubis, thank you very much. You certainly shed a lot of light and did very well.
No,
And if
actually...
if anyone looked nervous, it was Aversa, Owen Park, and Sabari.
No.
My name's on any of those emails, sir. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're all assuming that we're fools, and that's a
We would
very
never assume that.
grave error. I'm just
We
telling
are
you.
not assuming that.
You should laugh some more, because the camera's right there. Keep laughing.
You shouldn't laugh. 'Cause what he said is true.
It is what is true, Mario.
Excuse me.
And make me feel a little nervous.
What he said is true, though. You guys control Wunsch, Marinello, Serenian, and Proudler. And you jump down this rabbit hole with Normandy, and you can't get out now.
That's not true.
I'll answer them for you. Just, you know,
He's right. He's right.
No,
You
he's
guys
not
control,
right.
you
He's
guys
not
control Wunsch. You guys control Wunsch and told him what to do, and then, and just because you're not copied on an email doesn't mean you didn't know about it.
Heyman Mehta?
All right, we got another resident speaking.
Heyman Mehta, 75 Roberts Road. I actually have some of the court printouts. I did not bring all of them. I haven't gone online today, so I do not know what Ms. McMorro was referring to. But I'll try to touch some of the things which people have said today. I've been here a regular visitor since this housing issue came up. I think I was here when Jeff Serenian and a couple of other people had made the presentation in November, December, and then it looked like in my opinion, and from what I saw from them, that 77 units was a very doable application, which probably could pass or whatever. And I know most of you are lawyers. I myself, in few litigations, maybe not as much as you guys, but my experience has been that when a judge issues an order, and she issued an order in October 2018, approving an expenditure for buying that building, whatever it is, and I guess I do not have all the details, I wasn't there, so she must have felt that it's the borough's money, it's not somebody's private money. So if she's approving...
It was the Affordable Housing Fund money.
Right,
not
right.
the borough's money.
That's what I meant, it was public money.
Taxpayer dollars.
Okay, so taxpayers' dollar, that's what I meant.
Not taxpayer.
So it was affordable housing, whatever, I do not know. So she was approving, so I presume that she knew what she was doing, and generally that she probably was okay, otherwise she wouldn't have approved it, because it's public's money, it shouldn't be wasted. But having said that, all these experts in December or November looked like that it was something which you could live with. Comes January, it's changed direction from what I saw, and actually I can refer to judge's orders sections, and I have the order here with me also. She has pointed out, and I can actually read from there. From reading the judge's order, it looks like that she used four or five bases. First, that for 41 years, we did not build a single unit, number one. Then number two, she's saying is that mayor is opposed to any resolution, whatever. Resolution means a sellout to Normandy, whom I would call a plunderer, because basically what they want to do is plunder this town. In fact, this is a bounty being given to Normandy so they can make about $60 to $100 million profit, and the poor, unsuspecting citizens of this town are going to be hurt severely with this order if it gets passed the way it's proposed. It's basically a transfer of wealth, in my opinion. But the second reason she used really was, as I said, mayor opposition. Third one she used was, in her opinion, though it was a non-binding memorandum, the council flip-flopped and went and backtracked. I mean, I have arguments against that. I mean, it's not against you guys, but against that, that's a separate issue. Working on filing some papers in that litigation. But her main reason, then there was a Prentice Hall. That how Prentice Hall was lost previously. So now she doesn't want this 800 Sulan site to be lost. And mainly it was, so she's saying you guys did the flip-flop in a bad faith manner. So you abused the process. So what did you guys abuse? So you took plunderous time, in my opinion, sometime, because you guys only came to terms in April. So for 2 months, and then you flip-flop, means you turn the back on. And what I see is the master only recently came up with her units, so there were really no number of units really fixed before that, and it's not fixed. Usually I see a judge really following the master, because it's her person whom she has appointed. But in this case, she decided to go against the master recommendation against extending the immunity.
Excuse me, will the people out in the foyer please leave or come inside, but don't be speaking out there, you're distracting everybody. Ms. Simon, that's you, Mr. Luciano, I believe you're out there also.
So she did not extend the immunity in spite of her master telling her so. So I'm not sure if she's gonna follow her recommendation of 599 for all reason. She could say, no, I need to give more to Normandy, okay? Normandy, in my opinion, I'm in commercial real estate and real estate in general. From my experience, of course, they have private equity money, they raise people, money from people, they have to return great returns, and usually they flip the properties in 2 to 3 years. They never intended to stay in the town. So these kind of companies, when they come in, to answer your question, a commercial property return on that property would return normal 6-8% return on the money. But somehow or other, if they get to plunder, basically, and that was probably the intention, that's the only reason why they would have made the OPRA request, to try to figure out. And the very reason that they made the subdivision application, from what I see, is they wanted to transfer some parking from one to the other. We are facing some similar situation, and I'm not going to state the town or state, it's out of state, in which basically the other company is trying to transfer the parkings, and we had some parking somewhere else, and we are also in litigation on that matter. Ultimately, the end result is that they want to use that site for construction, and when that guy, I have that George Walamis statement here, and where the guy is saying, oh, the translation also, which was filed by Ms. McMorrow.
What's going on over here?
Really?
Mr. Mayor, I did, just making too much noise.
You're in a meeting.
All right. I asked the police officer to clear the foyer because it's too distracting.
I think you have some really good points, and
Okay.
we can discuss after, but, you know, I do respect your opinion, Mr. Mehta, and you always come up and bring comments out, you know, and so I can't go into details, and I'm not
So,
gonna, but...
I'm not trying to ask you, I'm just trying to inform everybody what I think, and I'm going to make some point. So, when I read Ms. McMorrow's, what was attached as transcript in her court proceedings, and the CEO of that company is saying, we always had this in mind. Of course, they always had residential in mind, and probably that was their game for applying for subdivision. So when we try to blame planning board, and we try to play the mayor or whatever, I think it's wrong, number one. It doesn't belong here. And number two, we should all of us, or all of you guys right now, should be really getting together on this issue. You can fight your legal battles, you can fight your other political battles, keep that separate, unite on this, okay? And from what I see, I know you guys have made the statement that, oh, resolution passing, that we're gonna fight this. I don't see you guys fighting this, number one, because why has Jeff Serenian or anybody not really deposed these people? If I was doing the litigation, I would be deposing these guys. I would be getting prospectus of how did they raise the money. Were they really trying to do residential, or were they trying to do commercial upfront? Nothing has been done. And you guys have actually a trial in a couple of weeks, okay?
How do you know what's been done, sir? With all respect, there are things that
I see motion papers being filed here. I see motion papers, and I see a lot of different things. So if you want, I can bring all the papers here.
Well, you should bring them,
No,
because things
why?
are being
You don't
done.
even have time. Do you really understand what's going on? I don't think
better
that
than
how
you know.
much you guys understand even what's
Better
going
than
on.
you know.
And that's why you're fooling the people here.
I think that you're...
No, you are fooling people here, okay?
No, we're not.
So Mayor has a motion pending, returnable on the 13th. The judge has conveniently postponed that motion on 13th. Why? And she decided to strip the borough's immunity. The council is dysfunctional. Mayor and the council is not working together.
Judges are human, you know, if they don't like you, they don't like you, just like any other human, right?
Yeah, but
And
that same judge, but that same judge should not have stripped the immunity of the borough.
We agree.
It's a very deep, how do I say, harsh result for the citizens of, so we should not be caught in your political games. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I'm blaming both the sides. I'm not blaming you or blaming the other side. Okay? And now, so last thing from Judge, this thing, you guys said, you guys have always stated that you guys did not sign or you have not agreed to this. Judge herself is saying on April 25th, the subcommittee actually had made an agreement. It's non-binding, so I don't know why Judge is really pissed off, but she is, and that's why she's saying this thing. But she is saying that you guys signed it.
But still, it's non-binding, like you said.
No, it's non-binding, but you guys said that we have never signed it, but the judge is saying that you guys signed it. So which one is correct?
agreement is nothing. What does that mean?
Yeah, but you guys said, no, so but on this issue, we need to work together.
Signature on there? No, right?
I don't have those papers here in front of me. No, it is with the judge, but if the judge is referring to that you guys signed it, and you guys must have, you guys,
She didn't say we signed it, is that what she said?
something. Here. But that's why the borough's immunity is stripped.
No, that is not why the borough's immunity was stripped.
I'll speak to you after, we'll speak after,
And-
okay?
And yes, she's saying non-binding, so I am agreeing, but
Yeah.
actually should have never been done. We shouldn't have gone this far. If you guys had not stepped into this negotiation, and you don't negotiate with the guys like Normandy, okay? Because you guys, or any town, is not capable of negotiating with this 800-pound gorilla and this set of lawyers. I looked up their lawyers, they do 20, 30 such
Our
applications.
job is
Of course
to
they
get as
do.
many options to the public as possible. Whether you agree with one of those options and disagree with another.
Had we pursued our 77, had we just pursued our 77 after this thing, we wouldn't be here today.
That's not true.
No. It doesn't work so what, but she wouldn't be able to say that you guys did not build one unit.
No, that doesn't.
Come on, that's also another reason.
I wasn't here when that happened, so you can't blame me for stuff in the past, so I...
No, you were here. It was January, February, March, April, May, June, July of this year. You signed an MOU that is an indication of your intent.
We got things that were built in the
And
past.
from whatever I heard today, please have your attorney, Albert Wunsch, not file any opposite, what do you call, derogatory papers or attacking other people from the town. If we are supposed to be on one town, one side, please keep it that way, okay? Thank you.
I haven't seen it.
Actually, I'd like to have a motion to just terminate Albert Wunsch. Is anybody going to make that motion?
Somebody on the left now, please?
Oh, please.
Anybody else wishing to be heard?
Yeah. Oh, somebody on the left.
There's only
Okay.
one hand on the left.
Go ahead.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
My legs are cramped from sitting so long, excuse me.
Take your time.
I have a couple of things. One second. These notes on here. Okay.
Name?
The ordinance for the emergency
Name,
appropriation.
please? Name?
Oh, Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue, I'm sorry. The ordinance 21912. I understand what was explained regarding that you said you had a tight budget, but I recall year after year, we banked our surpluses when we didn't go up to cap. When we didn't go up to the full cap that we were allowed, they were banked. That was a resolution that was always approved in the budgeting times. Have we had no bank surplus, not surplus, where we didn't use the full amount of the cap? The money, the excess was banked to use for future. Was that eliminated? We had none of that left?
Nope, we have none of that.
None of the banked,
No,
none left?
nope.
Okay, all right. Because I remember Debbie coming in as a citizen, when there was a tax appeal, and making a great, lot of comments about the fact that they knew the tax appeal was known early in the year, and it should have been budgeted in the budget, and it went under an emergency appropriation, and that was basically because the finance officer had given it to the council incorrectly. But you made a lot of noise about that.
Oh, yes, but
You
that's
know.
different. That's different than what's
It's very
happening here.
similar, though. I
No,
mean,
it
it's something
isn't. When you
that
have to
you
go to
know.
the finance board for approval, this you don't. So the finance board had to approve that $295,000. And whether the council realized that it had come out of the capital account and it shouldn't have come out, yeah, I'm not even going to comment on that. But it is so far completely different than what you're looking at here.
Okay, and there's no additional banked cap money that was available to use for this?
No. It's a very tight budget.
Okay, all right, because I know we never used any of that CAP money.
Well, you had used the surplus, and it wasn't
Well, surplus,
replenished.
not the
About
surplus.
600,000 of that wasn't replenished.
Right, but we
So the
didn't use-
percentages
I'm
of
not
what we can do, we can only go up so much.
Right, but I'm saying, it's not the surplus, it was money that you had your 2%, and you
I
didn't use
understand.
the full 2%, so it was banked
Right,
for
no.
future
We're-
emergencies.
We're at max.
Okay, all right, okay, well, verify that. Okay, on the, joint insurance fund 171, the agreement for that, is there any change in the amount of, or the deductible for the, JIF?
I don't know.
Does any of the council members know? You're voting on this, you should know.
The borough administrator just said that she has not been provided with any changes. Is that correct?
Okay, so then you probably should have some kind of a line in there that say at the same, that there's no increase.
They provide the resolution, and that's what we...
Okay, but I'm saying you probably should have something in there that says there's no increase.
I'm sure if there was an increase, they let us know, though.
After the fact, maybe. I also have a question about 176, the increase for Mr. Wunsch. I remember when he was hired in January, he was hired for 60 days, and it was, the amount was $10,000 for the 2 months or something in that area. It was a small amount, but he subsequently has gotten, from comments made, substantial payments and increases. And when does he stop doing what he's doing for whatever it is he's doing for you? Because apparently he's not doing such a good job.
Not soon enough.
Okay? You know, we had, Emery Rizzuto was not that involved in the, housing issues as borough attorney. And Mr. Wunsch seems to have created a position for himself when we have a whole fleet of attorneys that were working on the housing, that Mr. Wunsch, and I even said it to Al, I said, I'm surprised you're doing any of this housing. You have no experience in this. I said, you're a cops lawyer. You fight for cops and defend cops. That's what you do. You're not a housing lawyer. And you're just funneling money into this guy.
Your borough council is doing political payback to benefit
Well,
Mr. Wunsch.
There's something. It's not...
You really have to
he
stop
doesn't
with
have-
your
We
comments,
have more
Mayor.
than one attorney, you know that, right?
I-
We have Tom...
We always had Troutner and
That's why
Serenian.
you don't need Wunsch. You don't,
Right.
Wunsch is
We
got
need, no,
playing
we need a
different
team of
kind
lawyers
game.
to fight.
No, now you're insulting the public's intelligence. Last year and the year before, we had Serenian.
Serenian
And because
Troutner.
and then we added Troutner
Really late.
for litigation. But if you have two guys, why do you need a third guy who's just gonna screw it all up anyway?
All he's doing is...
He knows his town like
billing,
nobody else.
He knows nothing about this town.
He knows more about landmarks and land here.
He's a
than
history
you do.
person. He's a history
Okay.
person and a cops person. Okay, also, 182, municipal advertising for the tax collector. I'd like to know, we only hired a tax collector, why is this person leaving? And I know you can't discuss their performance, but what was she...
It's not performance-based. She's gotta move to another state because of her husband's job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 2 months.
It's the assessor, not the collector.
Say what?
It's
The
the
assessor.
assessor, tax assessor, not the collector.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're actually sorry to see her leave.
Just- Yeah.
They're
Okay.
relocating.
Well, now, I know when this person was hired, there was some discussion about the hours that she was gonna work and the pay and everything. So if you're gonna advertise this time, are you going to please increase the hours and, the time that she's available for the residents, that she will be in the office compared to, because what this girl was hired for was what Arrigo had, and, George Arrigo, which had the job like a marshmallow job for years and years and years. So now maybe we can get some real work out of somebody, advertise it the proper way, and hire somebody to cover it more substantially. okay?
We share, so we'll try.
I mean, I'm just offering that suggestion, that's all.
We'll try.
Okay, and then, to go back onto what you were talking about, the housing situation, I was only on the council for October to December, but Ellen, Ed, and Gloria were there, and William, all right? And we had meetings with Serenian and Michael Mastretta, okay? So you all knew, not you, all knew about the plan, 57 units, with the sweet spot, the way Serenian would say, that's a sweet spot, and we're going to get a bonus for 20, possibly, and then we'll get this 9%. And he said that they already had fielded inquiries from developers that do affordable housing developments that are chomping at the bit. And I said this at another meeting, to get into Englewood Cliffs. And in January, instead of trying to negotiate with Normandy, telling Al Wunsch to negotiate with Normandy, and whoever told him would be Debbie, Ellen, and Ed, because you were the committee, you were the ones that were dealing with him. So your close little circle, you're the ones who directed him to...
We asked him to have an open dialogue, is what we
Well,
asked him to do.
but the way it says in the E-Courts papers is that he was contacted. They were contacted. They made a certification.
Open dialogue.
Okay,
Right? Agree?
but why would you do that? Because you all approved the plan that Serenian had with the 57 units and the 77 with the bonus in January. You approved it unanimously. The planning board approved it, and then you approved it. And in the meantime, you're backhanding it, let's talk to Normandy. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense, but I can't tell you why.
Okay, well, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, when this is all over, then we'll...
Actually, you're right, Mary, it made no sense.
Okay, now, and in January, instead of trying to reach out to Normandy, okay, all right, we should have been sending out opportunities for people to bid on these projects. Okay, 6 months, September, 9 months, we could have had a baby. We could have had a baby in the meantime, 9 months already, okay?
But no one makes money.
It doesn't work that way.
All right, 9 months.
Bingo.
There should have been, but this...
Bingo.
Not only that, the number was not approved.
What?
The number was not approved.
But it would have been submitted and approved. It would have been, you don't know if it would have been not approved. Excuse me, you only are getting 100 affordable housing out of Normandy. This was going to be the equivalent of 77. So what are you talking, 23 more units? No. You're talking. 77.
Yeah, minus 143 minus 77 is not 20.
They never said 143.
That's
It was
the number.
77. They never word 143. That sounds like the height of LG. That's how tall LG was going to be, not the affordable housing. But you should have been proceeding with that. You should have continued with it.
We did it because the number was not approved. So
You didn't present it to get approved.
Gloria,
You didn't pursue it.
Gloria.
You dropped it.
why do you think we didn't continue that
Gloria.
if it was approved?
Because you dropped it. You didn't do anything to drop it.
No, it doesn't work that way. We're in litigation
Okay.
with various different
I can say
entities.
one thing without getting anybody in trouble. So the problem that was presented was that the 77-unit plan would not have been enough. Would not. That's how it was presented. Would not have been enough. So we ran the risk of having to build the 77 units and Normandy still getting an okay to build.
Right, but unfortunately,
And that was the dilemma.
and unfortunately, your committee didn't take, Mrs. McMorro, excuse me, your committee did not include,
What were you doing in January?
public.
your committee
Exactly.
did not include Mr. Perino or Mrs. McMorro, okay? And what Russ said, he said they had additional ideas of how to cure it.
As the person in the back was calling a liar to be removed,
No, I said, you're lying. Right.
that's calling you a liar.
That's not true.
Okay.
Okay, this is, we're
Normandy's sitting in the back.
Exactly.
You need to stop.
We're
You
not
know what,
lying.
you have to stop yelling from the audience.
Enough.
All right. So look, you really haven't answered anything, you haven't explained anything. You said,
I try my best with what I'm allowed to.
all right, you're allowed to say a lot.
They had dropped the ball, and I can
that's
totally
your opinion.
understand.
That's your opinion.
I can totally understand the judge giving her ruling the way she did, because you misled her by agreeing, maybe Ellen said not signing, but agreeing to that MOU. You misled the court through your attorney. You played a bait and switch game.
She's supposed
Okay?
to rule the law, not to...
But it was bait and switch. You shouldn't have proceeded with that, because you intended to follow through with it. You did not intend not to follow
We
it.
had a path to satisfying even the number that's been given to us today. We had a path to do that, and these people didn't do it.
That's not, once again, he's speaking on things that are in closed session, but, if there was a path, the same professionals who spoke with the rest of this council for this last 8 months,
You gotta stop that.
it was nowhere near 143.
You have to stop that. The professionals did what you told them to do. Okay, they did exactly what you told them to do.
Wow, I got a lot of strength, huh?
In January, the professionals were pushing for that plan, the 50...
I control their checks.
With the bonus units. They were using that. And they supported that plan and presented it to the planning board and to the council, and it was, with their recommendations. So whatever transpired that you collectively turned their heads to go another way, maybe they fed your doubts, maybe your doubts is what they fed on, and thought, well, they don't think we're gonna do this, we don't wanna fail, so they went along with
All of
their
them?
thinking.
All of them.
What, two?
All of them.
Two?
Chadner, who was mayor's friend appointed.
Two.
Also?
Two people?
You directed these
Our
people.
attorney,
You directed them.
you think
Yes,
that my
absolutely.
direction...
Yes.
That's so untrue.
Absolutely.
That's such a lie.
Absolutely. Just like Powers came back with numbers that didn't make
All we
any sense.
did was look at what our options were. When I stepped in, we hadn't looked at all the options. That's all we did, was we looked at the options, we brought it out to the public. They wanted to move forward with litigation, and that's where we went.
Folks, the theme of this meeting,
No, you don't want to believe that, but that's the way it works.
The litigation in
Yes.
January, you lost 9 months.
You would have still
You
lost.
lost 9 months.
You're wrong.
You're ridiculous.
We didn't lose 9 months.
You want it to be lost. You want it to be lost.
Why would I want it to be lost?
So you can say I'm right.
Believe me, I live in this town too. Why would I want that?
all right, so,
All the other Democrats fled already, so...
Who's all the other
all right,
Democrats?
so, for the people here and the people at home,
Not being
the theme of this meeting is follow the money.
In your pockets, lady?
Follow the money. Yes, sir.
There's a lot of Republican friends in this town. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. It's like,
What's the matter?
Hi, Mr. Telzer, homeowner at 9 Churchill Road. So many of you look so angry tonight. I would say I'm the one who has a reason to be angry more than anybody else in the town, but that's debatable. Don't let me forget to show you this. And if I have time, I'll mention a couple of things about Mr. Wunsch, in my opinion. I'm glad that you're fighting this, whoever fights it, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I'm glad that one way or another we're going to obey the law, because I always believe in obeying the law. I don't think I've had even a traffic infraction. I think it's 30 years, but it could be 29. And maybe a couple even before. Maybe 2 before that. So I believe in always following the law. So let me be clear. Now, I brought a fact sheet for each of you. And I'm a little short, so I have one for each council person and one for the mayor. And I brought, this is information that's available to you, but I'm going to make it nice and easy. Some transcripts here. And I'm not going to mention any names of the junior officer, because it's really not where my issue is, but this will clarify everything once and for all, because no activist judge Nobody is going to define me. I have the proof, I have the evidence, and as I've been clear, when I say you're an insurance company attorney, so that's not you, this attorney here. I was very clear about what your attorney did with evidence. I'm providing you pictures here. I don't know if you've done anything because no one responds to me. It's a very extremely grave matter, okay? And not only that, when I pointed this evidence out to the Third Circuit, they made a motion, the Third Circuit made a motion to, the insurance company lawyer made a motion to strike my comments. In other words, they submitted evidence that I believe was fraudulent, you can see for yourself, and they made an evidence to have my directions struck. So I want you to look at this. I'm going to leave you a copy. You can see for yourself once and for all who said what. And specifically, without getting graphic, basically, there was nothing there. There was a 911 phone call, agreed. There was someone identifying me, agreed. But since I so totally tore everything apart, that was just about the only thing that they could say. But they did say one other thing, which was a bit delusional here. And it says, in some circumstances, a complaining witness's doubts may prevent the finding of probable cause. Here, however, the fact that junior officer, observed, and I'll leave it blank, but basically he's talking about a belt, and was consistent with the woman's claim. Her name is no secret, Mrs. Erber, but I've crossed it out here. Well, actually, here's a check, an image of a check for $100,000. Okay? And it will be payable to your favorite charity, any one of you, or any prosecutor or any judge in the state or the country. And there are a lot of lawyers here. I'll be glad to make the contract out. I'll be glad to sign it. For anyone who can find in any document that the woman, any transcript, anything, where she ever so much as mentioned a belt. I don't know how this happened, but I know there's something very wrong here. Not only that, this is just the icing on the cake. So I'm leaving it for you, so do I give it to you? Sure. Okay, so there's going to be, so there's 7 copies, so I guess you're going to have to photocopy somebody else's, so everybody will get the originals. This cannot go on. So this is $100,000, and you can decide where it goes to. It can go to Woody Field. If you can find where the woman ever mentioned a belt, that's the big decision, is that there was a phone call and then I was identified. Not a dispute. And then this other nonsense, and then as far as the daughters, you read for yourself, it's all transcribed here, and then I'll let you go. My video, I understand, is online, all over the place. You can hear for yourself exactly what happened, and anything that's not on the video, I'll be glad to provide anybody, and you have what's in here, okay? So there's no doubt about it. So, I'll give you 7, does this leave them here?
Just put them on the other table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, regarding Mr. Wunsch, if I could. Look, I have nothing against Mr. Wunsch. I don't think he's the right choice for a number of reasons, and I will say this tonight, because he's representing the town. This is a very, very important matter. It really is, and I think you guys should really think about this. We only need to go as far as take a look at the charges, which you can look about in my case, and you take a good look at them, and you see the attorneys, if you could not have had them dismissed if you had only read them. I'm quite sure you will find that you could have had them dismissed right away. So, I don't know why Alan didn't have them dismissed, but you take a look at them, and this will, you can talk among yourselves, the attorneys among yourselves. You'll see that those charges could have been dismissed if they were read and anybody did anything about them. So here's 7, I'll count to 7. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelsler. in the silence of our Borough Council, I have to say two things. One, we will read the documents that you wrote. It would be unlawful to do, or have you leave here thinking that your offer of $100,000 to do anything would be acceptable. It's not. It's probably unlawful. Our Borough Council... charity. Still, you can't do it. Our Borough Council sitting here silently, I'm just going to make it clear that we will do what we have to do because we're duty-bound.
Okay.
You're not supposed to offer us money, and we're certainly not supposed to take it. So, we will do our jobs.
I'll rescind it.
You're free to do whatever you wish with your money. Donate it to a good charity. That's great if you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll rescind that offer and make it to any prosecutor or judge in the state, to their favorite charity. So I'm rescinding the offer to this council.
I just want to nip it in the bud. I will read
The
this.
offer is rescinded to this council, but it's to any prosecutor...
Keep your hard-earned money.
...in the state or the country. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes.
Just a few comments. I think the first is...
Name, please.
Lynn Norton, 9 Willow Drive. The first thing I don't understand is why we're having a meeting on October 9th. October 9th is the holiest day in the Hebrew or Jewish calendar. That is Yom Kippur. And I gotta believe that somewhere in...
That may be my mistake. I have to look at the calendar. Thank you for pointing that out.
It definitely is.
I know we changed a few days.
Our
but it was
meeting is
originally...
October 16th.
Okay, I apologize.
But this is saying right on here at the 9th.
My mistake. So for the record,
There is a meeting on the 9th.
So wherever I said October 9th in the ordinances, it's actually October 16th, okay? Just globally, make that change.
Thank you. The next thing has to do with the walking path at Whitty Field. I know we've talked about it many times, and quite a while ago, one section of it was drained. They put a drain in so that the water didn't collect. The water is still collecting over by the Skinfield dugout towards the back of the field. Significantly. I mean, to the point where now as we get into colder weather, it's going to become icy and it's going to become dangerous. So if we could expedite work on that, I would appreciate it.
Is there any work being done on that?
It was fixed, but you're saying...
I don't know that section was fixed because I thought you were waiting for the field to be completed.
Okay.
The field has been
Is that
completed, so that section needs to be drained.
The northeast corner?
The one closest to 910 and 920.
Oh, yeah, the northeast corner. All right.
Yeah.
I know they worked on it and they put in a new storm drain, but I think it's gotten clogged with runoff.
Yeah, it wasn't actually even hitting the storm drain, so it just may need a... regrading, exactly. Also, I know you passed an ordinance, or introduced an ordinance on the capital budget. As far as the roads are concerned, I know Mark isn't here, but hopefully you included Sage Road, not Sage, Johnson up to Sage, because that is a minefield. And I can't tell you how many times we've gone into that same hole. Of course, now there's like a whole row of holes, but people are using the other side of the street, so that's a pretty dangerous area. It has been patched, but those patches aren't going to get us past
Do you know anything about that?
the first rainstorm. So that's a really rough area.
Thank you. I'll let Mark know.
A question for what it means exactly when you lose immunity, and can someone on the committee please explain exactly, we're all throwing out here, we lose immunity, we know that we had kept immunity, but now we don't have immunity. Exactly what happens when you lose immunity?
Bev, you want to take that one?
I'm happy to talk
Maybe our
about it.
council should take it.
Basically, in 2015, when the courts took over the affordable housing cases, towns were able to file a declaratory judgment action by a certain date, and if they did so, they were immune from what we refer to as builder's remedy lawsuits.
Right, that's been for many years, right? That wasn't a new thing, that
Well, it
was
was
just a continuous process.
In 2015, it was new because the courts had to have been involved before that
Oh,
time.
I see, that was just affordable housing.
So we had, this isn't like municipal immunity or tort immunity that a town has. This is something separate, just deals with affordable housing. So in 2015, every town who filed for a declaratory judgment was granted immunity from builder's remedy lawsuits. Over the course of time, depending on what that individual town's circumstances were, they may or may not have lost immunity, which means that a builder can file a builder's remedy lawsuit. Basis of a builder's remedy lawsuit in general is, hey, I'm a developer, I own property in the town or have available property in the town, and I can fix your affordable housing problem. And we have been immune, as all towns who filed a declaratory judgment suit in 2015 were, and now we've lost the immunity, which means builders, not just the one that we've been talking about all night long, but if there are any other builders who have other properties in town who can make the same argument, theoretically, they could go to the court and make the same application.
So it has nothing to do with, the town is out of it at this point, so it's between the court, Fair Share Housing, and the developer?
No, the town's never completely out of it. The town would be involved, it'd be the defendant in a builder's remedy lawsuit.
Okay.
So if a developer comes in and sues the town would still have a position as the defendant, but we would not have control over the destiny of what the project is. We wouldn't have control over our own zoning. The court would appoint a special master, and that special master would, I'm talking very generally here, so...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That special master would determine what project can go forward and how that project should be zoned.
Okay, so it is taking it completely out of the town's hands.
It's...
So even though the town, we passed an ordinance that said there was a 20% set aside in any new building, they could take it further than that? Because we've already addressed that, I believe, in an ordinance, right?
We have, yes, but you're right. If the planner, a special master, which is usually a planner, takes a position that something greater than that should be allowed on a particular site, then that's what we may be stuck with, yes.
So greater than 20%, so they could say it's got to be 100%, or it can be 5 stories, or it could be 12 stories? Is that the
Yes, the
theory,
stories,
that now they
yes.
can build it as high as they want?
Well, not as high as they want. It's as high as the court and the special master allow them to. And the town has some say in that. But in terms of the number of units, we would be at less of a position to control it than if we had immunity.
Okay. And as far as, I'm not certainly a developer, but as far as profitability, does it generally make sense to build more affordable or more market rate? So I don't know if they're better off. I don't know the answer. So as far as looking at different plans, I think what I was hearing here is a lot of people thought we should have looked at one plan and only one plan, which was the 57 units. Maybe there was an A, B, C, D, but my understanding in sitting in the planning board meeting was that we would ultimately turn this property, including the building, over to the developers, whoever decided to develop the property.
Which building are you referring to?
We just bought a $2 million building in the development
We
site.
built the property.
Let's say, in the municipal complex.
Mm-hmm.
So they were talking about moving the police department and moving the community center. And I know the mayor has commented that we wouldn't have to move the police department, but I have never heard anything to that in order to accomplish the number of units. Was that given out there, or is there another plan that includes not moving the police department?
Not when we can speak of.
She's asking me. What's that?
Not when we can speak of.
Okay, that's fine. So when we were looking
It was
at that-
considered, and it's part of
When we
our
were-
thinking.
Let me just go on with my question. When we were looking at this, it would have potentially cost us $20 to $30 million to rebuild, and we would have had to turn the property over to that developer. So, in my mind,
it would make sense to look at what other options might be out there and not just saddle the taxpayers with those kind of numbers. And I understand it's always easier to have a small contained unit, and I do understand the schools, because I have sat on the school board for 7 years. And I used to look at some of those numbers that these professionals projected, and I used to say, oh my gosh, they're crazy. But you know what? They were right. And they said we were losing children, and yes, we were losing children, and the capacity of the school is greater. There may be other programs that have to be put in, but the reality is there used to be more children in the school, and they were right. So generally, these guys aren't going to be exact, but they're going to get a trend, and they're going to understand those trends. So I do think that we do need to look at the options, and I do think that this council is fighting, and I have sat up there on both, and when you are in litigation, there are lots of things you can't say, and it can only get us into trouble. The more you say, the more trouble you can cause. So I know that they're fighting, because everybody lives here, and I give you guys a lot of credit, and I'm really sorry that people have been divisive. I believe our mayor has been divisive. I believe this committee on affordable housing, the Englewood Cliffs Homeowners Committee has been divisive.
You believe wrong.
Mayor, it's not you speaking. I am entitled to my opinion. I believe you have been divisive, and I believe you continued. Every time you say
You're wrong.
up here,
You're wrong.
you are being divisive. So therefore,
I believe in immediate responses.
you are being divisive. You don't let anybody else have an immediate response, so I will ignore your immediate
All right,
response.
well, you're still wrong.
And the homeowners committee also was divisive, because immediately in their first email, they put out negativity. They had people coming in, up in arms about affordable housing without ever listening to the professionals, my opinion. So I feel that, and people who have sat in the back of the room, including Mr. Perino, they all say we have to work together, but they sit and they point fingers. You know what? We do have to work together. So if we all collectively could just let this go, let this political whatever, vendettas, political things go. You give a whole political speech at every meeting. It's a bully pulpit. We know that. Teddy Roosevelt knew that.
Goodbye, Mr.
Teddy Roosevelt knew that. 1909, it was a bully pulpit. It's still a bully pulpit. So let's just...
Teddy Roosevelt was the mayor of Englewood Cliffs?
work together and get this thing.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you to the council and the attorneys for doing what they can.
Right, but it wasn't divisive when you tolerated a former police chief threatening to kill our borough council president. That wasn't so divisive. I didn't hear you say anything about that. Okay.
Lauren Eastwood, Four Willow Drive. I have a few comments. First of all, I really encourage you to use the discovery process to get information about the Fair Share Housing Center. They have an enormous influence on every community in this state. And we don't know where those money's coming from. How do we know that the Fair Share Housing Center isn't just a front for builders? Who's paying those big salaries? You have an opportunity to take discovery, use it. Find out. If they're just a front for builders, their credibility is gone. But we don't know that. All we know is that they are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. You can get their tax returns online, under the 990 Finder. But what you can't get is a list of their donors. And I think that's the single most important piece of information about them. Use your opportunity. You don't want to talk about who's being deposed? It's going to be on the bills. We're going to find out anyway, because the bills are operable. With regard to some other things, on the legal bills, I am seeing recurring charges related to Chief Chaffee's pension. He retired at the end of January. His pension is between him and the pension board. Why are the taxpayers still incurring charges, legal fees, for something that has absolutely nothing to do with us?
As I understand it, there's a dispute between, and I'm not involved in that. I'm sure you've looked at the bills, you'll see that I don't have any slips on that issue. But as I understand it, there's a dispute between Chaffee and the pension board, largely caused by the fact that the mayor sent a letter to the pension board trying to stop Mr. Chaffee from getting his pension.
That's false.
Well, you could say that, but
That's false.
as I understand it.
That's false.
But you just said
Actually,
to
it's
me-
not personnel, he no
But
longer works for us.
Mr. Marinello did not tell the truth in that.
That's as I understand it. You asked me a question, I'm giving you an answer.
Now, you understood it better in closed session, but now all of a sudden you don't understand it so well.
Well, supposedly we were all CC'd,
That's
so we
different
never got
issue.
the letter.
That's a different issue.
Same issue.
This is the issue why he's not getting paid, which is therefore why there's still an issue about his
Yes,
pension.
but you said it is between Chaffee and the pension board.
Exactly, that's what he did say,
So
didn't he?
why are we, the
Because
taxpayers, paying for this
I
incurring
feel,
bills?
if you want me to tell you, I'll tell you. It's because the mayor wrote a letter as if it was on behalf of the borough and with the acquiescence of the borough council. And so the borough still has to be involved with it, because as far as the pension board is concerned, they have taken the position, as I understand it, again, I'm not the attorney in that case, that the borough of Englewood Cliffs was objecting to Chief Chaffee's pension.
The letter, just to be clear, because Mr. Marinello is gaming this, the letter was written as an advisory letter when charges were pending against the chief.
Well, it hasn't been withdrawn by the mayor, so it's still, the letter is
You,
still...
you as a council have the ability to do whatever you want. At that point in time, let me finish, Mr. Aversa. At that time, charges were pending. You guys decided to discharge and dismiss and forgive all the bad acts and all the charges. And then you decided to pay him $700,000. That is the fact.
That's not the fact. That's not even close to the fact. You make it up. And you know you make it up.
You owed him that money and you did it. You did it for whatever reason.
You CC'd us on a letter that you never gave us.
You ignored the letter, okay? It wasn't delivered to you. I'm not a postman.
You had no intentions of us seeing that letter.
You have it.
No. No attention. No.
Lying Ed.
No, you're lying, Mayor, once again.
Sticks and stones, Mario.
Mayor, don't lie in front of the public. I did not get the
Didn't you?
letter. I did not get the
I left it to be delivered to you guys.
No, you did separate letters.
Where's the Bible? He said he was gonna swear to the Bible.
Is that Ellen Park? Is that Ellen Park? Is she back? Is she back? Okay. Let's
He said that.
let's do another-
Videotape it, and he was swearing to God that he did that.
I wrote a letter. I delivered it to the clerk. It was to be delivered to you guys.
Okay, my next question. As Councilman Aversa pointed out, we have contracts with Chief Chaffee. We also have a contract with the PBA, which covered Captain Regan. Those contracts, which anyone can Oprah, and I have, set forth limits on the amount of certain types of time that can be included in their terminal leave pay. In Chief Chaffee's case, $700,000. The calculation of those payments did not consider those limits and included more days in certain categories than they were entitled to be paid. This was brought up 5 months ago, and we were supposed to be getting an answer. So, it's now been 5 months, you had plenty of time to investigate this. What are you doing to recoup that money?
According to council, that is what he was entitled to. So
I
I
can
don't know
look
if your
at your-
calculations are incorrect or...
Which
No, I
council?
got your calculations, the
Which
borough
council?
calculations, and I have their contracts.
everything.
I have their contracts, and I have your calculations, and they're mutually
Would you
inconsistent.
have any objection to giving that to me so I can give it to our labor attorney? I have no objection to that, if you don't.
I will send you a letter outlining what my issues are.
Because I think I told you also back then that if your numbers are correct, then we want to make sure they're correct. So I'm okay with that.
I will send it to you, and that should have happened.
Thank you.
Finally, I understand that police officers' retirements are not necessarily predictable. They're entitled to a pension, whether you agree with it or not, after 25 years of service. However, in certain circumstances, they are 100% foreseeable. That is a circumstance in which a police officer works until age 65, because state law says they must retire at the end of the month in which they turn 65. It's not negotiable, it's not waivable, it's there. Chief Chaffee, you have his personnel records, I'm sure you have his birth date. You guys knew, everybody knew, that he was going to be retiring this year. He had no choice, it's state law. So, this payment to him was foreseeable. It's not an emergency. It may be that Regan's retirement wasn't foreseeable. It may be that Murphy's retirement wasn't foreseeable, because they could have worked until they were 65. But Chaffee's retirement was foreseeable, and calling an emergency and pretending that you couldn't plan for it is ridiculous.
But once again, that's not what it means.
It's not an emergency in that regard. The way it was explained to us is, that's just the title of it. It's not.
It was a preposterous...
It's not, you don't have to go to finance, local finance board or anything like that. That's when it's...
We didn't make it up.
Emergency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Over 3 years, it's that I've been approved in one budget, so it helps us as taxpayers. So
Actually, 5 years now.
5 years. Glenn Luciano, 20 Laura Drive. Who's the liaison to the Shade Tree Commission?
I believe it's Ms. Eastland.
Miss Eastwood, yeah.
How about on the council, who does it report to? Who's the
Well, it doesn't. The council appoints.
Yeah.
They report to the borough administrator.
They report to the borough administrator. In January, I believe, I wrote a letter to the borough administrator, and I said about a tree on my block that a builder put up a bond, and debris falling off it almost hit my wife's car, almost hit my son when she was walking the dog. I believe it was referred to Miss Eastwood. I wanted my first reason was that we have a bond for the construction, and I didn't want to see us taxpayers have to pay to remove a tree when there should be bond money during construction if they killed the tree to have the tree removed. So I spoke to Miss Eastwood, I believe in March, May, I forget, one of those months that begin with an M. And whenever you all in the council approve the new vendor to remove the trees for the shade tree, so whatever month that was. I tried to go to a shade tree meeting in June or July, one of those months with a J, and it's on the calendar. I come to Borough Hall, there's no meeting. So the next, I think, maybe in end of June, July, I see Miss Eastwood, I grab her in the hall and say, is a tree ever going to come down? Another thing fell off the tree. You said once the vendor's approved, we're going to have it taken care of. Well, I saw her last month, she told me it'd be done before the end of August. Well, what's today's date? September 11th. How can you forget that day, right? Tree's still standing, crap's still falling in the street, tree's still dead, and I'm wondering if maybe something can be done, or maybe someone can encourage Miss Eastwood to maybe do something with the shade tree as much as she's concerned about all the legal bills and everything else that's taking place in town, because this is a hazard, and I'm putting you on notice that if it comes down on my car or one of my kids, that'll be the time that I file a lawsuit, not for Oprah or, you know, you called me a name or whatever it is, but I would appreciate it if maybe someone could do something about it and maybe get the Shade Tree Commission to really do something.
Mr. Luciano, if you don't mind, would you send me an email tomorrow? I will take care of it.
Thank you very much.
I've been taking care of other shade trees that,
I'm glad someone's going to address it.
so if you send me an email,
Thank you for your
thank you.
time.
Y'all have a great night.
Anybody else from the public wishing to be heard? Yes.
Tony Morfest, 26 John Street, Englewood Cliffs.
20 what?
26 John. I made 3 phone calls to this shade tree, and I never got a call back. There's a tree between myself, I don't know the number of my neighbor, but it's ready to fall on my electrical wires. Now, like, if you can, just send somebody. It's between the Armenian guy next to me and myself.
And obviously it's a shade tree.
I made 3 phone calls. I dialed Englewood Cliffs, and they said, press this button for shade tree. I left a message. Nobody's ever called me back. As far as the affordable housing, nobody in Englewood Cliffs wants affordable housing. Nobody in the state of New Jersey wants affordable housing in their town. It's a fact of life. The state passed a law. We have to live up to the law and do what we have to do. I think we should do it, if we can, in an orderly way, not antagonizing one another. And to be frank with you, Mr. Mayor, by saying this one's a crook and that one's a crook doesn't help. By antagonizing a judge, because these fellas in the back just sit down and put down whatever you say, and you don't care, because it's our tax money too. So you get it off your chest, but it's us who are getting the knife in the
That's not
back.
true. I stand for something.
You don't stand for anything.
I do.
If you stand for it, then run statewide.
You came in here,
Don't run town-wide. Don't
the first thing you said today, you called me an asshole. You sat there, you did it, and then you apologized. And then you apologized, and I still let you come up here and
The
talk.
only reason I apologize, sir, because
you did it, and you knew it was wrong.
It was rude. Not because I'm wrong.
Because you're rude. You're rude, that's why.
It was rude, but you have no moral...
So why do you
have
think,
no moral...
why do you think you get to call people those names?
Why?
Why? Why do you think you're special? Nobody else up here, except once in Marinello in closed session used the F-bomb. You think you're so comfortable. Why do you think you're so protected? Why are you so protected? Are you special? Are you special?
Yes, I'm
Are you really special?
I'm special.
Yeah, great, good.
You represent this town.
And I'm doing a great job. We had immunity every step of the way.
You're zero.
We had immunity every step of the way.
You're a zero.
Oh, thank
If
you.
nobody tells you that, I will.
Go ahead, what are you gonna call me next? You were the star legend. Go ahead, relax. Relax. Your teeth are falling out, your eyes are bugging out. Go home and sleep. Enough.
He's a resident.
No, sir.
We'll take care of your teeth.
Why don't you take
We'll take
care
care
of
of
the
your
town?
teeth. I am taking care of the teeth.
My street?
I am taking care of the teeth.
No, you're not.
I've been excluded from the process. You now jump down a rabbit hole with the people you put into office. Yes.
Mario, please don't talk to them like that.
You jump down the rabbit hole with them, okay? They stopped working on the plan that they should have been working on.
It didn't work.
You know it.
You know exactly what happened in closed session.
The truth of the matter.
Another one who waves like little bits and pieces, but doesn't tell you the whole story, because he can't, because we can't talk about what happened in closed session. That's what this is.
No, you know what? You're wrong. You're wrong. The people in this town are very smart, okay?
They are very smart.
They see right through what you
They're
did.
gonna see it.
And they see right through what you all did.
They're gonna see it.
Mayor, you call us worse names.
Not true.
Asshole.
Not true.
Why are you yelling?
Not true.
Yes, you do.
Not true. Not true. I never call anyone names. Really?
Oh my God.
Well, I'm talking about closed session. Those are
Don't call people names?
I think he has selective memory.
Please. Anybody else from the public?
Nobody left.
Anybody else from the public?
Motion to
Okay.
close?
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, payment of claims, Resolution 19-169. Claims for August 15, 2019 through September 11, 2019, $3,370,675.35. I object to any payment being made under this to Marinello, Wunsch, Serenian, or Troutner, okay? They should not get paid for the work they do.
Roll call, please.
Should never pay
We gotta
that
run the
rate.
meeting because the mayor gave...
We always had immunity with Emery.
Yeah,
Let's just
okay.
keep going.
True.
Yeah, that's why
Councilperson
you
Wu,
appealed, yeah, right? An appeal was made.
Song,
Yes.
Savari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
O.
Yes. Right? An appeal was made.
All right, Resolution 2019, 170, advertise RFQ for disposal of leaves.
May I make a suggestion to do a consent for the whole kit and caboodle?
I'll only do consents for 179 to 181.
79, 181.
We can do them all, and...
We can do them all, and then we can say what we don't want to vote for.
Yeah,
To 181? What about, what's wrong with 182?
yeah, we changed that, right?
No, I think
Not yet.
Make a motion.
only go.
All right.
So let's make a motion.
Well, I think the public at home doesn't have the document in front of them, so I think it's important that we read them all out. So, 170, advertise RFQ for disposal of leaves. Can I have a motion? So moved.
We do it when he gets here.
Any second?
Second.
Can I vote?
Councilpersons Wu?
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yeah.
O.
Yes.
171, renewal of membership in the South Bergen Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
Sorry, I think the, Mayor, just the resident asked a good question on this, on what's happened to the deductible.
Hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed? Okay.
What is the deductible?
150,000?
150, all right. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Can I vote?
Who seconded it?
Gloria.
Councilpersons Wu?
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
O.
Yes.
172, execute agreement to renew the membership in the South Bergen Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
So move.
Second?
Councilpersons Wu?
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
O.
Yes.
Okay, we were previously put on notice regarding 173. Are there any changes to that
Yes.
resolution?
Mayor, I make a motion to delete the fourth whereas.
Whereas yet again, the actions of these individuals will cost the borough taxpayer funds.
Who made the motion?
Are you still leaving the resident names in that resolution?
Yes.
You're leaving the names in there? All right. I don't agree with that. Have a motion?
Okay, so motion, Councilwoman O to remove paragraph 4?
Yes.
By the way, I think you can make a motion to approve the resolution,
And
having
delete-
taken out
Yes.
paragraph 4. You don't need to vote twice on this.
Right.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the resolution and just delete the fourth whereas.
So you're deleting the fourth whereas, but you're leaving the names of the individuals in there.
Correct.
All right, I don't agree with that.
I need a second.
Second.
And I got a second. Okay. Councilpersons Wu?
No. For the reason that the residents' names are in there, and
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Abstain.
O.
Yes.
174, authorize not to exceed amount for Jeffrey R. Serenian and Associates. I object to any payment to Jeffrey R. Serenian.
Councilpersons Wu?
no.
Sung,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
O.
Yes.
175, authorize not to exceed total litigation amount for Albert H. Wunsch III Esquire. Again, I object to this, but I also think we should get a refund for
So
that.
moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu?
No.
Sung,
Yes.
Sabari,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Aversa,
Yes.
O.
Yes.
176, authorize not to exceed for former borough attorney Albert H. Wunsch III Esquire. Again, I object to any payment to him and think we should get a refund for everything ever paid to him.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu?
No.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Mr. Morfassus, please sit down, you can't block the doorway. Okay, then step back, because you can't block the doorway, it's a fire hazard.
Yes, you can stay there.
Authorize, 177, authorize not to exceed co-litigation amount for Chiesa, Shahinian, G. Tomaso.
So
Again,
moved.
no payment should be made to
So
them.
moved.
I need a second?
I second.
Councilpersons Wu?
No.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
178, authorize not to exceed co-trust amount for Nassau Capital Advisors LLC. Again,
So
they should
moved.
not be paid anything.
So moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu?
No.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh.
Yes.
Did you consent to 179?
So 179, 180, 181, let me read them out, we can do a consent on these three, they're all involved in the same idea. So 179 is approved braking aids, bicyclist ride through Englewood Cliffs. 180 is approved New York City Cycle Club bicyclists to ride through Englewood Cliffs. And 181, because we don't have enough bikes going through town, 181, approved Velocity bicyclists to ride through Englewood Cliffs. They're not all on the same date, I hope. So the dates are set forth in the resolution. Can I have a consent agenda motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, that was Sabari and on Park?
Yes.
And that's for all three. Okay.
Everybody voted?
Councilpersons Wu?
Yes.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and while we're on that subject, don't forget the 5K run on Sunday.
Can I say that?
Okay, you can say it later. 182, I didn't see it on the agenda, so I didn't want to forget. 182, authorize Borough Clerk to advertise for tax assessor position.
So moved.
Second.
Councilpersons Wu?
Yes.
Song?
Yes.
Sabari?
Yes.
Park?
Yes.
Aversa?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, so, that's the end of the resolutions. For committee, council member reports, let's just go, councilperson by councilperson, state your, committee, and, give us your report if you have one. Councilman Wu?
Nothing to report.
Councilman Song?
DPW, nothing to report.
Councilwoman Sabari?
Well, we spoke about finance tonight, and I'm also on the affordable housing, which I can't speak about, so.
Councilwoman Park, here's your big chance.
Thank you. All right, so we're having our 5K this Sunday. It's rain or shine, so I hope everybody shows up, and we have a very fun event. And this time around, we're actually having a kids' fun ride. So there's going to be a bicycle ride after the race. It's 2 age groups, from 7 to 9 and 10 to 12. So the race will start at 9:15, but we'll be there like 7:30. So if people want to come and register for that day, we'll be there. And that's it.
Councilman Aversa.
The 9/11 Memorial Service is very nice this morning, as Chief Henkelman first, and he did a great job.
Councilwoman O.
Nothing to report.
Okay, can I have a motion? Is there any old or new business that anybody wants to talk about? Anything? No? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
How come you couldn't enter file?
I couldn't.